And welcome into the Friday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this rainy Friday morning. It's been raining all week. Rexrode, I'm sick of the rain. I'm over it. Done with it.
Well, if this is an 8-hour in the Vanderbilt press box thing today with this rain, man.
You were so much looking forward to the 11 a.m. start time today, and this could get ruined.
I gloated too much. That's the whole thing. It was, oh, yes, and you better just keep your mouth shut and work hard and move forward. And I tell you, from the Vanderbilt perspective, although I guess you can look at this from the East Carolina perspective too, if you got a bunch of delays, you got your ace going, that can be problematic. So I'm looking at the hour by hour, minute by minute.
Well, maybe if it does get delayed, give people more time to get in there. Maybe so. Don't have to worry about the 11 a.m. start time.
That is a good point. It could be a rowdy, soaked, waterlogged crowd.
A lot of whistling going on.
Yeah. You could have like 19 whistlers in there by dinner time.
You'd really be ready to go. Joe, I was trying to go back-to-back years with nailing my Stanley Cup winner pick, and that's not going to happen. Colorado bounced last night. They lose 4 in a row.
How many?
To Vegas. 2 years in a row.
Oh, okay.
How many did you think I said?
I thought you just said 9.
Oh, no.
This is a bad sign for the show.
No, if
How did 2 sound like 9?
I don't know, but if I had picked 9 consecutive Stanley Cup winners, I'd probably be doing something else.
Yeah. Well, you and I would probably both be.
We'd probably
to
be in
Vegas
Vegas
soon.
Yeah. We'll find out today at 9:30 how well you're doing right now in weekend winners.
I've mentioned earlier, but yes, I'll gladly review with you.
Porth
6-0.
We got problems.
Hey,
man.
Porth. 6-0.
6-0.
Well, Elijah's been making my picks the last couple of weeks, so
and he's actually done better than you've done this year. So
good.
Porth
You made up some ground.
Just shifting blame to Elijah immediately.
Elijah's got some interesting called shots too. We're gonna call shots today.
Oh yeah. I did have a good week last week in Call Your Shot Friday, so I'm looking forward to that coming up at 7:45 today. We got a lot to get to on the show today. Clark Lee, Vanderbilt football coach, dropping by at 7:30. We'll get into what this offseason looks like for Vanderbilt with him as they get ready for football season coming up here in just a few weeks. Turron Davenport for his weekly visit at 8 o'clock to break down Julio Jones to the Titans. Julio hoopla in full effect yesterday as well with Julio Jones on the field. And, Joe, that's where we're going to begin today. You were there yesterday for Julio Jones on the field at St. Thomas Sports Park. Look, for my trained football eye, he looked great in the drills they were doing yesterday. I mean, the feet were moving, the hands were looking good. That head was still on the little shuttle drills he was doing. He looked like a pretty good, spectacular athlete out there.
I mean, really, I put out some videos which were kind of funny. It's a guy doing a drill. But
they were great videos, Joe.
They really were. They were awesome.
Yeah, well, they got circulated among Falcons fans, so some of them were like, "What is this? This is nothing." I'm like, yeah, I know. I said it's an amazing video because this happens a lot. People are always like, amazing, and then it's like, this is not that amazing.
Yeah.
So that was my point, but I will say that the entire view he did some team and then he didn't do others. I mean, he was actually involved in stuff more than I would have guessed. But there was one play where, poor Breon Borders has Julio Jones.
Good luck, buddy.
And it was a play where they run some stuff where they don't actually throw the ball. So it's just they're just getting a look at everything.
Right.
So Tannehill takes the snap, everyone goes out, and then he sort of, just sort of pump fakes where he's going to throw the ball. I mean, this was Breon Borders was just twisted and I mean, just immediately with this vicious move, and Tannehill just looked at him and went, yeah.
All right.
He would have, he threw it like he was going to throw straight up, and he really could have. I mean, he really could have punted it right then, and it would have been a touchdown. But I thought it was just a good all-around, and A.J. Brown's kind of watching from the side. He's on one of the goalposts watching the practice. He didn't take part, but Reynolds was out there, and even when they had other periods, Tannehill was just throwing a lot to Julio, throwing to Reynolds too, and man, he looks big. His length is something that you maybe a little bit different from live to TV. Wow, the guy is long, and just his when he runs a route, he's very good. He's a technician. He's not just like a big, fast guy. So it was impressive. And I thought his presser was also probably just about exactly what Titans fans want to hear.
Well, as good as your videos were yesterday, the pre-practice roster picture you tweeted out of the roster sideways, I said it on Twitter. It looked like my grandfather trying to operate his camera on the iPhone. So it was not a completely banner day for you yesterday. I don't know what was going on.
I think that's arty, a little kind of faded out.
Yeah, it was good.
It's kind of like a '90s rock video.
At Joe Rexrode on Twitter.
Yeah, you can check it out. I didn't delete it. I proudly keep that up. Maybe I'll pin it to my profile
thing right there. You should.
Hey, I was in a hurry. I was walking in. I was like, "Ooh, look at this! Look at the roster. Who's on the top of the roster?" Because there's never going to be a 1.
Yeah.
So if you're 2, you top the roster.
Absolutely.
For the Tennessee Titans.
And Julio Jones topping the roster. Look, I mean, he looked like Julio Jones yesterday. That's what I took away from the videos I saw. I mean, oh, he's still pretty good. And I think we're going to get a lot into what he said at his press conference yesterday as well. But it does kind of feel like there's a little bit of a motivated Julio Jones heading in here. And he talked a lot yesterday about, the atmosphere here with the Titans that he's seen very early, and we'll get into that coming up. But told people to stay tuned if they're doubting him. I like that answer from Julio Jones yesterday. I think there's a little bit of motivation of I hear some of the noise of people saying I'm 32 and I could be on my way down, and I don't think he feels that he's on his way down at this point.
Yeah, no, he that was a pretty strong comment. Again, he's healthy right now. Now, of course, Falcons fans, as I said, they took much note of this whole thing. One thing they'll say is, okay, well, first of all, very upset, like, oh my gosh, he's participating in an OTA.
Yeah.
Like that never, ever happened. But also, okay, well, get ready for the injury report and the foot, and he'll be questionable next week and all this stuff. And, look, I'll be surprised if he's never on an injury report, if he takes part in every practice or even every game next year. Although less surprised about every game because, again, throughout his career, he usually answers the bell on Sunday. But if there's anybody wondering if right now at this moment he's healthy, totally.
Yeah, and he looked like it yesterday. And just from the outside kind of looking in, it looked like there was a pretty interesting vibe at Titans practice yesterday. Like just him being on the field from a media standpoint. Obviously, there's more media there, and you had national people like Diana Rossini flying in and taking part in Titans OTAs, which is just hilarious to think about if you've watched Titans OTAs for any length of time. But you had that, and even Vrabel kind of felt like he was in a good mood yesterday.
Yeah, but Vrabel's talking about unseasonably pleasant
for the media.
For media, and he was kind of unseasonably pleasant. I think it was mutually.
I thought he was. Yeah,
mutually unseasonably pleasant.
Just give it a couple months.
Yeah, well, we'll come back
next
to being
week.
like, so why didn't you give Shane Bowen the title last year?
Yeah, we'll circle back around.
Yeah, but
what about that double reverse to Brett Kern?
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, there was. No, you're right. I mean, yes, the media thing for sure. I mean, there are a lot of people there, a lot of people very focused on wherever he was, and I think it was a pretty short period of being able to, for anybody who doesn't know, like you can't take video ever during team stuff. I mean, you can't get video of like when they're running actual plays, and there's also limits on like talking about where Julio Jones lined up, for example,
right.
is a no-no. Schematic stuff. So it was a short window and basically just a couple drills, and then had to turn off the cameras. But that was intense, and yeah, on the field, just felt like kind of maybe here and there. You're another position group, another drill, maybe looking over there. How's Julio looking over there? But Julio also, especially they had goal line stuff, and he was off there with Josh Reynolds, and he was kind of like very active with his hands, like talking about, oh yeah, you should do this or that or whatever. I mean, that's a good thing to see too if you're the Titans, if you're a Titans fan. He can be a mentor, and Reynolds said afterward yesterday, It's also good because, they're both like 6'3", and there are some differences there because of that.
Sure.
So, some ways that you have to do certain things, getting off press coverage or whatever. So he has a mentor who not only is the best receiver in the NFL the past decade, but a guy who actually shares physical traits with him.
At B Jameson 24_7 on Periscope says, sounds like Julio has a chip on his shoulder. That could be pretty dangerous. That could be pretty dangerous. I mean, if you get, like we said, if you get 85% of Julio Jones, you'll take that right now. You get like 95% Julio Jones, you're really in good shape at that point if you're the Titans.
Yeah, and I mean, look, a trade can go the wrong way on a player like this. That's the danger of, if you're in this situation, you want to win, great. You want to go here or there, great. But bottom line is the team has to do the best thing they can get back for you. So he could have ended up in a lot of different kinds of situations here. Now, it seemed like mostly it was teams that have a chance to win that were looking at him. I mean, no one's taking on that salary right now if you're rebuilding, right? So I guess from that perspective, he was probably going to go to some level of contender. But I feel like he's pretty excited. I mean, the stuff, and we're going to get into this later in the show too. Even just, I think some of the stuff he said about A.J. Brown was encouraging. We know A.J. Brown idolizes him, but that's I can tell he's excited about that. Who wouldn't be? Playing with him, playing with Derrick Henry, being here, the organization. It seems like all positive. He's gone to dinner with Tannehill already.
Yeah.
So
I wonder where they went.
Yeah, that's where, on Zoom, if you had a group of people in a room, that would have been fine. Where'd you guys go?
Yeah.
But, on Zoom, it's like, unmute yourself now and speak your question. You can't get those details. But next presser, that's got to be asked. Stillman, ask that question.
Well,
please.
I wonder if it was the Waffle House, because there's that thing out there with the Julio Jones. I think he said in college he was like Waffle House, always open.
Oh.
Maybe that's where they went.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was like 12 years ago, man.
Got a good memory.
Good memory.
Steel trap up here, man. We're off and running today here on Robby and Rexrode. Some interesting comments yesterday as well from Julio Jones regarding his role on the Titans. We'll get to that coming up next. But first, I got to tell you about my friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are here. They are well underway, and you'll be in hoops heaven betting on all the action on FanDuel Sportsbook. There are so many good matchups, and FanDuel is taking that excitement to another level because new and existing users can bet risk-free throughout the playoffs. New users can get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. Plus, once you have an account, you can bet one same-game parlay risk-free every week. That means you could combine multiple bets for an even bigger win. The point spread, the first basket scorer, assists, three-pointers, steals, blocks. Everything is on the table. And if you don't win, you'll get up to $10 back. Basketball fans, now is the perfect time to give FanDuel a shot. Just sign up with promo code ROB to bet the NBA playoffs risk-free exclusively on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Risk-free bet for first online real money wager only, and refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Same game parlay refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. A max refund of $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Same game parlay available for multiple sports in all states on mobile and web. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, discussing Julio Jones on the field for the first time with the Titans yesterday. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Also streaming on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Joe, Nicholas, watching in today from France on Twitter, says, Joe, do you think our defense can step up this year with training every day against guys like Julio? How much do you think going up against Julio, A.J. Brown in practice helps this defense, particularly this young secondary with guys like Fulton, hopefully Farley eventually in the mix, Molden as well? How much do you think going up against Julio Jones every day could help those guys?
Did you say France?
France.
Okay. I want to, did I hear France right?
You did.
It's not like Paris, Texas. France. No. Actually, France. All right.
Nicholas says, good morning from France.
Nicholas.
Tighten up.
Okay, so let me guess. So for Nicholas, it's about 11:15 in the morning, I think. That's my guess. You know what? That's a good point.
I wonder what's French for tighten up.
Probably tighten up. I don't know.
The thing is, I took many years of French, and tighten. We'll figure it out. So listen. Yes, this is a good point. And how? Tighten and how. Okay, how about that?
There we go.
Je parle un peu de français, actually, but not much.
I'll take your word for it.
But not much. So
Je m'appelle Robby.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go. You know it. Ça va? Oui, ça va. So I think
it's got to be the first time in history we've spoken French on this radio
Well, it's
station.
about time. I mean, sports talk doesn't have nearly enough French.
Oh, man.
In this country.
Anyway, what are you talking about?
Yeah. No, Julio, the DBs against Julio. I absolutely think it's a benefit. Iron sharpens iron. Well, what's that in French? Let me find out. Iron sharpens iron. I've seen that in a weight room or two. But seriously, I mean, those guys are going to get torched. I mean, those guys are going to, and obviously it's like the big thing. Butler, like in camp last year, it's Butler and it's AJ. Whenever they go good against good, ones against ones, absolutely, those two are going to match up, right? Yep. I mean, it happened a lot. Or when they do like different drills where you just do corner receiver. Sometimes it's just kind of who comes up in line. But when they're like goal line and stuff, like Butler and Brown, great stuff. So now it's like, okay, which one do you want there, guys? Because you can, it is different. I mean, Julio is like his length again is stands out, and I would say that probably as a route runner, just you can see it right. It's almost like I was watching yesterday. It's like I'm watching like a way longer, way more athletic, like Adam Humphries off the line. Like he's. But again, why do you think a guy's this great? It's not just there's plenty of guys who run a 4.4 who are fast and can catch a football.
Sure.
I mean, he's a technician. So, yes, to answer your question, this will help the defensive backs.
Nicholas also says it's 1:30 there in France.
Oh, crap. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Not 11.
That's right. We're on Central Time. But I still would have guessed 12:30.
Got to get your time. Right.
Hey, listen, le feu aiguise le feu, okay? Le feu aiguise le feu.
Is that Matt
Iron
LaFleur?
Sharpens the iron.
There we go. Very, very well done. Joe Rexrode, multilingual here on the show.
That's right.
So Julio Jones spoke to the media, obviously for the first time since he joined the Titans yesterday, and had some interesting things to say. Number one, about his health. He was obviously asked about his health and where that stands right now after the injuries that he dealt with a season ago with the Atlanta Falcons. His age at 32, now coming into the new situation with the Titans. Here's what Julio Jones had to say regarding his health yesterday at his press conference with the Titans.
For me, at the end of the day, I believe in me. I know what I have in the tank. And we're talking about age is 32. Like, I'm young. Like, in football, you can say it's old, but you either do it or you don't. This game don't change for me. I'm still fast and still strong. And to, the games last year, I just, had an issue where I didn't take enough time to heal up properly. But, that was just my decision on going out there and just playing. There's no excuses, things like that. But I'll be ready to go. For those who questioning my health and things like that, just stay tuned.
So Julio Jones saying if you're questioning his health, stay tuned. He's still young, still fast, still strong, and that basically he just didn't take care of the injury properly enough last year, was trying to get out there and play, and ultimately could not do it anymore with the Falcons. I was interested to hear that yesterday, especially the ending there. I think that got a lot of traction on Twitter yesterday, the stay tuned part of this. And apparently they're talking about it on ESPN right now as well.
I'm watching Julio run
He's
right
running
behind
routes.
your head.
Titans OTAs all over the place.
They're not using your video, though, Joe.
They're not.
See, my video was better. It was way farther away, but still, I feel like the framing was better.
Yeah, I think so too. But I was interested to hear that because, look, I expected him to say something like that. But the stay tuned part of it, they got a lot of Titans fans fired up yesterday. They think maybe some big things coming from Julio Jones.
Oh, yes. I mean, like yesterday it's like really this whole week, It's like this big buffet of excitement for everybody, And, there was nothing like to douse it at all. I mean, our buddy Bob, love Bob on Twitter, he was like, I was concerned by what I saw with Julio coming off the plane, which I still don't totally understand. Bob, I hope you're listening. I don't know if Bob gets up this early, but – people are looking for stuff, little signs, right? Good or bad. And, of course, you're probably going to – some people want things to be confirmed of what they believe it to be. But, look, there's always the question with a great player who has at times in his career been totally the focal point of an offense. And, by the way, an offense that, was one of the best, like in the NFL.
Yeah.
One of the best, really, that we've seen for a few years there. And it wasn't just him. They had two good backs and other good receivers. But a guy like that who's produced like that, coming into a place like this, like how will it all work out? I mean, I think that is one of the big questions. Like, when you have this much star power on an offense, Vrabel said this yesterday, there's one football. He made the note of that. There's one football to distribute here. But when things appear to be this amicable and like there's actual relationships built, and then you see the guy, then maybe that's not your top concern. Maybe your top concern is, can he still play at this level? I mean, look, right now, if they played a game, he would be a problem for people.
Yeah.
Get into the season, we know what this sport is. And his history is injuries that cost him a lot of practice time and nag and maybe affect performance, but still being pretty good on Sundays. So if that's what you're still going to keep getting, then you're pretty happy with that.
Well, and we know that A.J. Brown fired up about Julio Jones coming in and what that's going to mean for him on the field, just the opportunity to play with one of the receivers that he's looked up to the most in this league. And Julio Jones discussed playing with A.J. Brown yesterday and the problem that could present for opposing defenses as well. Here's what Julio Jones had to say.
Very excited. Just for us to be a 1-2 punch or a 1-1 punch, or however you want to look at it. He's definitely a number one receiver. Definitely a dog. Very has that competitive nature in him. And just showing him, little things that I know from, experience being in the league. But he has it all, and we've been hanging out even before this, even when I was in Atlanta. He used to call me and things like that. So we always talked on the phone. Off season, we talked. So now just being able to play with him, it's going to be great, and it's going to be a very exciting season.
So Julio Jones, very complimentary of A.J. Brown yesterday, discussed some of the conversations that they've had before the trade and just the advice that he's given A.J. Brown, saying A.J. Brown is a number one wide receiver. You can call it a 1-2 punch, a 1-1 punch, whatever you want to call it, but that A.J. Brown has all the tools on the table. It felt like, and look, I know he's going to say this every time coming into a new situation, but it felt like genuinely Julio Jones very excited to play with A.J. Brown in that press conference yesterday. That's the takeaway I had from his thoughts on A.J. Brown. He is very fired up to play with A.J. Brown.
Yeah, and we've heard from anybody who will talk about it, we had Jacob Tammy on, great teammate. That's what you hear about Julio Jones. That's for sure the case with A.J. Brown. I mean, A.J. Brown is an intense competitor. We talk about the football junkie thing all the time. I mean, everything I've seen, I'll go back to something that I'm the only person who saw this actually in Denver, just because I went back into the locker room. But the dude crying after that game, that terrible game at Denver when they made the switch, ended up being a huge day for the team, but crying because he felt like he cost Mariota his job, Like, think about that.
Sure it wasn't tears of joy? That was mean. I should have said that.
Oh,
tears of joy to the switch of a quarterback and throwing the ball. That was bad. I really got to stop.
What a hater you are. You sit there and throw stuff at the screen when Mariota got on with the Raiders last year, didn't you? You were rooting against him.
No, I enjoyed it for him. But it was very on brand, the interception at the end.
Who is a bigger hater? Joe Rexrode of Michael Jordan or Robby of Marcus Mariota?
Want to point out Marcus Mariota's a great guy, as I do every time.
It's funny you ask that question because, one of them is great, which I will admit, and then one of them is a nice guy.
There you go.
But, yeah, it's
Mariota, a much nicer guy than Michael Jordan.
No, listen, I have total respect for Michael Jordan. The way he bounced back from losing 3 of the 4 series he ever played against Isaiah Thomas, pretty amazing.
There you go.
Good for him. Thank you for setting me up for that, Porth. No, those weren't tears for joy from A.J. Brown. He was but he's a good teammate, and that's the point. And Julio Jones, by all accounts, is a good teammate, and that's important because the hard part with all this stuff is when you lose a game. I don't think it's gonna be a big deal. They're winning, and Julio had 3 catches for 39 yards this week.
Yeah.
AJ had 9 for 153. Okay, if they're winning, it's fine. It's just when you lose, when you're that good of an athlete, it's not selfishness necessarily. I think people sometimes mistake it for that. It's I could have made the difference. Right?
Throw me the ball.
Yeah, and that's where it can be. So if you have a collection of stars like this and you lose, well, you can be the best teammate in the world. And at some point, people are going to start getting ticked off.
Yep.
And it's going to start manifesting itself on the side. I mean, that's natural. So all they have to do is win every game.
Yeah, no pressure heading into the season.
Could they be 20-0? I mean, the Julio effect.
Kansas City's talked about it.
Yeah. I mean, will they lose? Could they possibly lose a game next year?
When we come back, what should Titans fans be excited about the most with Julio Jones coming into the fold? We'll get to that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Talking Julio Jones, he's on the field for the first time yesterday as a member of the Tennessee Titans, addressing the media for the first time as well. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. And Julio Jones had a lot to say yesterday in his press conference, but one of the things that he kept bringing up repeatedly was the culture, the atmosphere that he's noticed very quickly here with the Titans and the way that they do things in this organization. Here's what Julio Jones had to say about the culture here and how that's the most important part of his game as he heads into his new team here with the Tennessee Titans. Here's what Julio Jones had to say.
It's just, at the end of the day, you want to create a winning culture. However you need to do it to get the job done. My whole career, I've never been a stat guy. Previous years, everybody always asking me, what you thinking you're going to do? What's your prediction? Things like that. I've never been a stat guy. I'm a team guy. I'm just excited to be a part of the organization, and whatever they need from me to do, I'm willing to do it and play my role and play it at a high level.
So that was Julio Jones yesterday, and that goes back to, Joe, a conversation we've had about him this week in terms of, what's it going to look like if maybe he gets fewer targets than he's used to getting? Is that going to be a problem at some point? You brought it up in the last segment. I mean, as long as you're winning, everybody's probably happy at that point. Julio Jones, though, saying he's not been a stat guy in his career, which I think is true. I mean, I've never really heard much out of Atlanta of Julio Jones complaining about not getting the ball enough or not getting enough targets, anything like that. And yet still, you look at his stats, they're pretty good as well. So he's never really had to have complaints like that. But to me, that's exciting, and that kind of lines up with what Jacob Tamme said to us earlier this week on the show. Julio's a good teammate. Jacob Tamme saying he's never once seen or heard Julio Jones complaining about a lack of targets that he's had in a game, in a season, anything like that. To me, that's very exciting for the Titans moving forward, because if all three guys, and I think we know this about A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry at this point, they're bought into that. If Julio's bought into that too, that's a pretty good formula for this offense.
Right. I mean, like, one thing I get frustrated with fans sometimes on, contract situations. I feel like fans too often go the way of management, and now every sport's different, but in this sport, like, every single guy who is in this league should get every single last dollar they can get, because you will be cut at a moment's notice, and you sign these deals, and it's your guaranteed money that matters, because you very often you won't get to the end of that deal. And that's the only thing, really, is just the Julio Jones contract stuff, which is, I mean, look, I think it's fair to say, man, you just signed a deal. Why was it so important to sign? But you know what? If I'm Julio Jones at that point, I'm like, I am the best receiver in the league, and I want to be paid like it. So, but regardless, as long as that doesn't trickle over into the locker room and the field, who cares? No one should. And no indication that it ever did. So, no, I think they're coming into this. It's going to be a good partnership. I feel like you got mentoring with A.J. Brown, who wants to be mentored, and a guy who isn't too far from being a mentor himself to other receivers, because I think he's on his way to being one of the top guys in the league. And maybe this helps him accelerate that too.
So we've talked all week long about Julio coming in and the impact he can have on other people, whether that's A.J. Brown or Derrick Henry. And look, all that's really exciting, and I think that's a good thing for the Titans. That makes this offense really difficult to defend. But to me, still, the most exciting part of this is Julio Jones and the ability that he brings himself in his own game to this offense. Like, you talked about the way he looked yesterday, and if you're playing the season right now, he's going to be a problem for people. Look, we know, injuries can happen along the way, and we'll react to those accordingly when and if they do happen with this Titans offense. But right now, like, I look at Julio Jones. He talked about it yesterday. He's 32 years old. He still feels good. He feels fast. He feels strong. Obviously, he's a gigantic vertical threat down the field. To me, that's still an area where this Titans offense can take a step, is their vertical passing game. That's really exciting to me, to have an option like that. Like, I'm trying to think back through the history of the Titans and some of like the vertical passing options that they've had, and they've had some. I mean, Chris Sanders was really good that way. I mean, he was really fast. He was a burner going down the field, but they've never had anybody like Julio Jones. I mean, Julio Jones going down the field and stretching the field vertically, that's a really exciting part of this offense. I think that may be what I'm looking forward to the most, is just seeing the impact that Julio can have 30, 35, 40 yards down the field.
Yeah, well, you forgot to mention Khalif Raymond.
I did.
That will be interesting, because I would think that would be one of the things. I guess I don't always think about Julio. Certainly, he can do that for sure. He does it all. I don't always think about him as a straight up, always vertical guy. He's often been a catch and run after the catch.
He does everything.
Yeah. No, he does. He does everything. But yeah, I mean, I think certainly now you have someone who can get behind people. I mean, AJ Brown, that was kind of the big question earlier with him. Like, yeah, he's really strong with the ball and he's great after the catch, but can he actually be I think we saw last year more and more. They found ways to get him free on some vertical routes. So, as you know, I'm working on a story right now about Julio, like a film study thing, and so we have all these still photos from like him with the Falcons and stuff, and then even like some of the stuff the Titans did, like in the space Corey Davis had, and you're looking at some of this stuff and you're just like, how in the world are defenses going to deal with this stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, because really Corey Davis, again, very good last year. But some of the situations he had last year was just like, and it was just like most defensive coordinators, and this is going to be interesting. I mean, Dean Pease said this many times. Got to stop the run. Like, if you don't stop the run, then everything else is screwed. Like, if these guys are in 3rd and 2 all day, like you're hosed. So, got to stop the run. And then of course last year, then it becomes also. Gotta deal with this A.J. Brown kid, okay? So that's where a lot of the other space for everybody else came from. And so just take that and apply it now, move it forward with this guy. It's I mean,
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be I was talking with Dave McGinnis, longtime Titans assistant on the sideline yesterday about just like the conflicts defenses are going to be in. And it's just like, because, of course, he's a defensive guy. He was a head coach. He was a D coordinator forever. He's an assistant coach here. And, I mean, of course, from his perspective, it's like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But also, like, you could tell just when you think about it as a defensive coach, it's like, well, you got this choice or this choice or this choice, and they're just bad. Somewhere you are really leaving your butt exposed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be a headache for defenses to try to figure out all season long. We got a lot more to get to on Julio Jones. A lot of your thoughts to get to as well on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025, including some comments from Mike Vrabel yesterday on how exactly Julio Jones is going to fit into this offense. We'll get to all that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, discussing Julio Jones on the field yesterday with the Tennessee Titans and taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. And as Mike Vrabel pointed out yesterday, the media in an unseasonably pleasant mood. I felt like Mike Vrabel in an unseasonably pleasant mood as well yesterday. Lots of hype, lots of excitement with Julio Jones on the field. But the question really boils down to, where exactly is Julio Jones going to fit into this offense? How is Julio Jones going to fit into this offense? And Mike Vrabel was asked about that yesterday, the challenge of bringing in a guy like Julio Jones and placing him into this offense and finding the right balance, where to go with the football, everything on the table in this offense that Julio Jones brings with him to the table. Here's what Mike Vrabel had to say.
Mike, how do you think Julio Jones fits into this offense? But what do you think he does for other guys on this offense?
You know, right now, Joe, we're trying to really get him acclimated, and certainly he's a productive player. He's a big target, strong hands, sure-handed. Just really have enjoyed his attitude and the interactions that I've had with him about our football team and about how, just his willingness to come in here and try to learn how we do things. So, his impact, obviously can help a lot of people. I think, there's ways to do things, and then veteran players that have been successful in this league, can also try to explain things to younger players. Sometimes those are your best coaches, and I'm sure he'll provide some of that. But ultimately, we're just trying to figure out where he fits in and how he best gets acclimated to our system.
So that was Mike Vrabel yesterday on a Zoom sped-up version question by Joe Rexrode there. That was nice. You had a couple of good times yesterday on Zoom. That was fun.
Well,
you're cut out during Julio Jones. Had to go back and kind of recircle the question. It was good.
Yeah. Well, this is such high-stakes stuff now with Julio Jones. Usually watch it, and then I usually get in the car, and then I, ask a question because then I actually have a better chance because their Wi-Fi is kind of spotty.
Yeah.
And ask it on the phone, but I was like, okay, I have to have the laptop set up and all this, and tweet some stuff, and so it was John Glenn, Dave Beauclair, and I were the only three who stayed to do they have this little table,
yeah, and
the Wi-Fi was kind of weak, and then there was no cover, so I couldn't really see my laptop screen, so we kept trying to find our cursors and stuff. I actually was texting Kim Smith with the Titans. I'm like, can you actually put me down for a follow-up? I can't find my cursor to say in the chat on the Zoom that I would like to follow up. But I found the cursor to unmute myself.
That's good.
So that was good. But, yes, it was Zoom World, man. Zoom World's got to end. But anyway, great question.
It was.
Great answer.
Great answer. Vrabel was on one yesterday. Look, I mean, he's got to be excited. And I realize, Vrabel tries to take, the same approach largely with his players. And, he always talks about they'll treat you with the Titans how you treat the team. That's kind of his go-to phrase when it comes to players coming in. But it's got to be, just the idea of Julio Jones coming into this offense and the different doors that could open for this offense. Mike Vrabel's got to be over the moon about this. And then you factor in what he also said with, what sort of an impact he could have on the younger players as well. Julio Jones just kind of seems like a head coach's dream in this league.
Yeah, Vrabel would never say he's over the moon about anything. And, hey, he had some good fiery moments yesterday, especially with some of the backup defensive guys, man. He was getting after it. It was funny, too. So I want you to tell me if I heard it, because Glenn and I had a disagreement on this. So Julio was talking about how it's like college.
Yeah.
Did you take that as Julio talking about the Titans or about Nashville?
I thought it was the Titans.
So did I.
Just like this.
Look, how would he know how Nashville is?
There's a lot of guys from Alabama here when it boils down to it.
That's true.
I'm sure it is like college.
I guess that's true. And it's a bunch of Crimson Tide guys.
By the way, I was talking to somebody yesterday in Alabama, and he was saying maybe the Titans are just trying to force all the Tennessee fans to root for Alabama guys.
Maybe so. I mean, Vrabel did bring up Saban yesterday unsolicited. I mean, just started talking about Nick Saban. And then he was asked about it a little bit later as well.
By me also.
By you.
Awesome question there, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of University of Alabama talk yesterday coming out of that building.
Well, so when he said that, and he also talked at one point about I think he basically said unconditional, sort of like support and everything. And that's where Glennon was, thought he was talking about the fans. I'm like, I don't think he's talking about the fans. I mean, I think he's talking about like in the building. And obviously, look, Julio has said thank you to the fans of Atlanta. He said exactly what you should say, and to the organization. But let's face it, it's very well known and reported that he and the organization had issues over those contract disputes going back years, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Right? So that's how I kind of took it. And obviously it's like, well, okay, your new place loves you. It's been 4 days, But when I
really good 4 days, though.
Yes. But when I thought about like the college thing, I was like, man, because Vrabel is, I'd be willing to wager, Vrabel's intensity as a coach on the practice field would be pretty high on the list in this league.
Agreed.
I mean, some of these NFL coaches are just kind of like CEOs walking around, and the assistants do it, and they sort of come in here and like Matt Nagy. What's he do? Is he out there yelling?
Yesterday
Dan Campbell, I'm sure, is out there eating big legs of mutton and whatever, but
turkey legs.
Yeah. But I mean, right? Like Vrabel's. So, but then I thought about it. I was like, yeah, but that's true. His head coach was Nick Saban at Alabama.
Yeah.
Talk about an ornery guy sometimes. Although he's all Mr.
Nice Guy now.
Honey and vinegar now. Or that doesn't make sense. What's the saying?
I don't know. What's the saying in French?
Je ne sais pas. But at first I'm like, this is like an unconditional love college atmosphere. But I was like, okay, as I say, you're used to in college Saban screaming at everybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not saying Vrabel was screaming at it, but Vrabel gets intense out there. And he said, we were talking yesterday about how we can't report what people say and we can't report where line up and stuff. But like I told Robby Bourne, Titans, PR. I'm like, if I could just do one story of one practice of Vrabel quotes 2 players on the practice field, that would kill.
Oh yeah,
it'd be amazing.
It'll never happen. But
no,
yes.
It'll never happen. And it's just like I used to do Izzo practices, and my gosh, the creative profanity of some of these coaches. But anyway, everything from Julio to me was, I mean, again, going to dinner with Tannehill. Like he's going to be completely motivated to come in here, and he wants a ring. I mean, he got close. They should have had a ring. I'm sorry, but 28-3. I hate to bring it up, but he was right there with one of the greatest offenses we've seen to win a ring, and he didn't get it. And I think that's the thing. At this point, yeah, he's going to make as much money as he can get, as anybody should in this league. But like, he's, to me, all in, has good relationships built in, good feel for things, and looks healthy.
Nicholas on Twitter says, Julio's footwork was so impressive yesterday. The impact on what he's done was awesome under the eyes of his young receivers and teammates. Do you think a guy like Josh Reynolds can fly under the radar when we use our 3-headed monster on offense?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Josh Reynolds, it was interesting that we got Reynolds yesterday, and I get a sense that, I think he was bracing for a lot of Julio questions, right? I mean, he knew that there would be like a lot of questions about, now you've gone from like the 2 to the 3 and all this stuff, but he also accurately, to paraphrase, said, he expects to get some good opportunities, and I think Tannehill, if you're Josh Reynolds, you got to be excited. If you've really studied Ryan Tannehill and how he has played, Tannehill has not been a guy who has been like, I'm throwing to AJ at all costs. Now, sometimes maybe he should have more, but he's a point guard. He moves the ball around. Josh Reynolds will get his chances, and he's going to have some space out there.
John from Nashville on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, Julio looked great yesterday, very explosive. He'll do nothing short of upgrading this offense. On the flip, what he and AJ will do in terms of pushing and improving the secondary each and every day in practice, the defense won't see very many teams with a threat that they pose every day in practice. I agree. Now, I also think at times like stuff like that can be overrated because it's not like throughout the course of the season, every day in practice, like they're just going to go crazy and have Julio Jones and A.J. Brown out there just running 35 routes every day. Like it's not going to be like that intense all the time, but I do think, in training camp especially early on, like guys like Caleb Farley, Elijah Molden, Christian Fulton even. I mean, throw him in the mix as well. You talk about getting ready for the NFL, getting ready for a season. Yeah, try going up against Julio Jones and A.J. Brown every day in practice.
Sure.
It's not going to get much tougher than that.
Right. I mean, it's no different than, if you've got a great pass rusher and, you got a rookie right tackle, it's like, hey, if you can handle this, different guys have different moves and things like that, but just the overall quality of the player should make you better. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun watching those guys go at it, and you will get a sense for these corners pretty quickly in camp. Or, even next week in mini camp.
Yeah. Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. JD texting in, honey and vinegar is a widely known remedy for sciatica. What do you think of that? Nice mute, too.
What's a remedy? Look at Porth pointing at me all excited.
Every time you mute, I point at you.
It's barely even a thing ananymore, but it's like 3 in the last 2 days.
Yeah. So it is still a thing.
Still regularly a thing.
Honey and vinegar, what was I thinking of there?
I don't know.
It's not – I mean, that's like sweet and sour, but it's like sweet and bitter. You don't want that.
But by the way, what's sciatica in French?
Land of milk and honey.
By the way, we know it's sciatica. We have to point that out now. I'm aware that it's sciatica.
Yeah. No one.
Disclaimer.
Yeah. If people aren't in on the joke, It's like I said, like yesterday, amazing Julio, and then all these people are like, oh, what's so amazing about it? I'm like, all right, never mind.
Really need a sarcasm font.
Yeah.
Twitter does not have that.
It does not. It does not at this point. When we come back, we're going to switch gears. It looks more and more like the college football playoff could be heading to 12 teams. What do we think that's going to look like? Is that good for the game? And what's the best way to go about handling that? We'll talk about that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the wholesaling studios, powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Taking your thoughts all show long on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. We've got Clark Lee, Vanderbilt football coach, joining us later this hour at 7:30. We'll get into the latest of Vanderbilt's offseason with him, with camp right around the corner. Not that far away from college football starting here in the Nashville area, SEC area, which is pretty hard to believe when you think about it. That coming up at 7:30. Call your shot Friday coming up at 7:45 as well. So taking your bold predictions in the world of sports, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. So, Joe, it's looking more and more like the college football playoff expanding to 12 teams could become a reality. Now, the current plan, and this is coming from Heather Dinich from ESPN, they could be meeting next week in Chicago to decide the fate for the 12-team format. Now, I don't think an official vote would come at that point, but College Football Playoff Executive Director Bill Hancock saying the proposal, quote, the proposal at its heart was created to provide more participation for more players and more schools. In a nutshell, that is the working group's message. So that's going to be on the table for the committee to deliberate at that time. The current agreement with the format now runs, I believe, through the 25-26 season, but there's a chance that, if approved, the 12-team playoff could be adopted by 2023. So what do we think of this? Now that it looks like the idea of a 12-team playoff could become more and more likely, what do we like about that? What do we dislike about the idea of a 12-team playoff, particularly the way it could be set up with home games as well?
Well, look, and that's where I'm glad Andy Staples wrote the column he did, and I'm sure there's others out there too. That's the thing that infuriates me. It's so stupid. I can't get off this because there's plenty about it that I think makes sense. It is fundamentally different. You are really changing things if you do this, and we talked about this with Nicole Auer back yesterday. I mean, there's a lot of challenges here, and yes, there is a possibility a team's going to play 17 games, which is just a lot. But like I said, I went through what might be the 12 team this coming year, and you can, of course, go back for the last few years, and I came away with 8 of 11 games probably being good. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean they would have been. You know, any game could be a blowout, and maybe some of these games we just expect Alabama to roll wouldn't be, but 8 of 11 games looked like that would be a pretty good matchup, pretty competitive game. That's pretty good. So I like that. The idiotic part of this thing, and that's the word Staples use, and that's probably a gentle word. They want the quarterfinals in this situation, the proposal as it is now, to be in bowls.
Yeah.
To be, and again, this goes back to the whole thing with college football, the cronyism and the way over reliance on and just the bowl system. I mean, it's already been, to me, it's what it is. It's what it should be. There's a lot of bowls out there, and teams get it as a reward, and it's another game, and it's football, and you can sell them, and it's fine. But they can't. If you're doing this, you can't do everything. You can't make everybody happy. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care with the Rose Bowl. It's not the same, man. It used to be the granddaddy of them all. I love the Rose Bowl. It's just not the same. So if you're going to do this and have this huge playoff, I don't care about the bowls having their piece of it. And it's absolutely ridiculous that a 1 through 4 seed would never get a home game.
Yeah.
But the 5 through 8 seed would get home games. When they're playing the bottom 4, 9 through 12, they'd host them. And then, so let's think about a fan real quick. Let's think about a fan who cheers for,
Clemson.
Yeah, there you go. Okay? So go to a neutral site game to cheer them on in the ACC title game, and then go to a neutral site game to cheer them on in the quarterfinals, and then go to a neutral site game to cheer them on in the semifinals, then go to a neutral site game to cheer them on in the national championship. So if you're incredibly filthy rich, you can go to these games. And even then, you might like miss one. It's so stupid.
And not only neutral site games, but I mean, more than likely, neutral site games spread out all over the country. Like, it's not like they're going to be in the same geographical location either.
All the bowl. Oh,
Yeah.
got to make sure the Fiesta Bowl's happy. Got to make sure Peach Bowl's happy. It's that has to be blown the hell up. It's so stupid. And think about this too. Like, so last year, I think a lot of people became more conscious of. Obviously, we know how much money college football makes and it makes for the schools. But also, I think people became more conscious during COVID of what it means to the communities, right? Like Tuscaloosa and Knoxville and Madison and Eugene, Oregon and East Lansing, all these places, like businesses' lives are built around 8 weekends of football. So think about what it would mean to a Tuscaloosa, a Columbus, Ohio, wherever you want to go, State College, Pennsylvania, to have a home playoff game. And you can do whatever you want with the revenue. Split that up, that's fine, but still, like, the town itself is going to benefit so much. It's kind of like a little payback for, how many people lost so much, in the last year. And I know that's a few years down the road, but, like, help them. And also give fans a reward. And also on TV, I want to watch, like Georgia having to play at Wisconsin. I mean, Bob Bowlesby, get the hell out of here. Bob Bowlesby, the Big 12 commissioner, well, we wouldn't want, we wouldn't want not a good idea to have a playoff game in East Lansing on January 7th. What does the NFL do? They play in Lambeau on January? What are you talking about?
And
like, these people think everyone's just stupid. I mean, seriously. Like, some of the crap that comes out of their mouth is just like, I think you're all idiots. It's insane. So the thing is, it ruins everything else for me because it's so dumb that I can't even really focus on anything else. Like, seriously, you said that, dude. We've been watching the NFL playoffs in cold weather in January our entire lives. Like, one of the most famous football games ever was Dallas at Green Bay in Lambeau in 1967. Get out of here. Sorry, I didn't even expect to get all pissed off.
Well,
about
but
this,
to your
it's so
point,
stupid.
And then you factor that in with the other ways college football is essentially trying to be like the NFL. Like, that's essentially what they're doing here. And Paul Feinbaum from the SEC Network talked about that, how college football is essentially trying to be like the NFL at this point. Here's what Paul Feinbaum had to say.
The problem with college football, they don't have any leadership. So what are they going to do? They're looking around going, who is doing this right? Where are all the eyeballs? Where's all the money? It's the NFL. College football right now cannot compete with the NFL, even though they probably shouldn't be trying, but their numbers are inferior. So what they're going to do is just break the bank. They're going to open this thing up, and suddenly we're going to be talking about wild card games and home field advantage in college football playoff, just like we do with the NFL.
So you got home field advantage for one part of this.
We will,
and then,
sort of.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I guess the way they justify this is, well, yeah, the 1 through 4, they're not going to have a home playoff game, but they don't have to play that game either. I mean, they just got the week off. You got the bye week, as you like to call it. So
That's actually a bye.
It is. Well, we can bring up the definition,
But-
which somebody,
but
by the way,
there's no
included
dispute.
yesterday on the text line as well. So
Yeah.
I'll bring that back up as well. But that's how they're going to justify it. Well, who cares? They don't have to play. They just get the week off at that point. I'd love to have a home playoff game if I'm Alabama or if I'm Clemson or whoever ends up in the top 4.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
You're a top 4 seed. You don't get a home playoff game?
Yeah.
Reward,
Number 5 does.
Right. Reward for your fans. Reward for your players. Reward for your coaches. Reward for your community. No. But no, that's okay. You can go out and play in the Fiesta Bowl for the quarterfinals and then the Rose Bowl for the semifinals, and then we'll go to the Orange Bowl for the championship, and your fans will all come. Idiots. It's just so stupid. I want to know who came up with this crap. The more I think about it, I haven't even thought about that much because I was in Julio zone for the last however many days. But it's like you've ruined. It's like, seriously, it is like the turd in the punch bowl. It really is. Like to come with this stupid idea.
Should we get Bob Bowlesby on the show?
You got his number? Sure. I don't know if Bob Bowlesby's the guy who has to talk about this stuff. I don't know if he came up with it, but that is just a hilarious comment, and it's great. And it does go well with what Feinbaum said. You're trying to be the NFL, but there's always some stupid excuse. Well, we the kids have the exams or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, you got college basketball teams that fly home at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday in February. Get
Worried
out
about
of
exams. Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trevor texting in, a Rex rant on a Friday. I love it.
Yeah, this was a spontaneous one. Can we just tape this and just play this Monday if I can't come up with anything good?
I'd love to.
I mean, it's just it's insane.
Staples used the word idiotic.
Right, again, he's being nice. I can't use some of the words I want to use. It's just and again, TV. I understand. We all understand. What is it? It's TV product, right?
That's what.
But it's also worse because of this. I want to tune in and see on the off year for Alabama that they have to go travel, to play Ohio State. I mean, I know we always think they're going to be both top 4 seeds, but one year they won't. I want to say, shoot, man, think about a game at Neyland Stadium. I mean, I know there's a lot of different ways. That seems like fantasy right now. But I'm just saying, the fact that it's actually better to be the 6, so you get that home game. To me, it's a big deal.
Well, I don't know if it's better.
No, but it's a big
the week
deal.
off, so you don't have to play the game.
Right, but I think that on its own, hosting a playoff game, to me has always been, if you're going anymore, you got to do home games. You have to. And I think that's a huge deal for everybody associated with a program, and it's just being ignored here. And again, it's just fans are being ignored, and you are seriously asking fans to possibly go to 4 bowl games. This is comical.
Here's another example of how dumb this is. So let's say Auburn is the 8 seed and Alabama's the 1 seed.
Yep.
And Auburn wins their first round matchup at home. And then Auburn and Alabama go to Dallas.
Yeah.
Great example. Right. Auburn should have to be going into Tuscaloosa.
Yes.
They got their home game. Awesome. Won it. Now you go into there. What an incredible scene. Oh, at the USF&G Sugar. I mean, at least that would kind of make. I mean, New Orleans would still be, fun. But I mean, it's just no. That's a great example. There's so many. You look at this, and it's just fix that. I mean, if you fix that, then there's still problems with 12, and it is very much. But look, we haven't even talked about I do like the highest ranked champions just to make sure you don't have that random, champion who really shouldn't be there. I mean, I like that they did that. I think that's smart. There's plenty of access. The Notre Dame thing is really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Notre Dame can't be a top 4 seed under this because they aren't going to be in a conference. But it's actually it's better for them. They have way more access to getting into a playoff now, and they retain their independence and all the money that they don't have to share with anybody. So I think it's smart of them to make that compromise. A lot of this it's going to be good. That part cannot happen. Can't happen.
Michigan at Ohio State in the Peach Bowl.
Yeah. There you go. Awesome. Yeah.
Texas, Oklahoma, somewhere else.
Yankee Stadium.
In the Pinstripe Bowl?
Yeah. And the Meineke Car Care Bowl.
There you go. We'll continue this
Beef
discussion when we come back. Got some of your thoughts to get to as well on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll see if Rexrode chucks his laptop in the next segment as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. This Father's Day, ESPN 1025 The Game is saluting frontline fathers. Submit written descriptions of fathers who are serving on the front lines, including in the military, hospital workers, firefighters, or police. This week of June 14th, 1025 The Game will air those submissions via call-ins, text messages, our website, and on social media as well. Visit thegamenashville.com for more information. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game, discussing possible college football playoff expansion to 12 teams and the format that Joe Rexrode's got a pretty big issue with the top 4 seeds basically just being left out of a home game at this point when it comes to this discussion. Chris, Joe, on the text line, says, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, Cranky Joe, would you be happy if they had regional sites and teams slotted into regional bowl games so the higher seed team can still have a regional game close to home so they're not traveling all over the country? I agree with the home games, but would this be some kind of compromise?
Hell no. Get that out of my face. Sorry. I was just trying to play up the
Trying to really get back out
Joe.
there? Yeah.
No. Regional bowl. I like college football in college football stadiums on colleges. On colleges. On college campuses.
We play on top of the college.
Yeah, not on top of the admin building. No. I mean, what are the best? Like, what's the best thing about college football?
The atmosphere.
Tailgate,
there's the whole thing, the pageantry, all of it.
You're like, Feinbaum's right. You know, number one sport in this country is the NFL, and there's some great scenes around NFL stadiums and tailgating. It's not the same. Now, your favorite team is the closest, and in Kansas City, I'd say, is pretty strong. But yeah, it's not. They don't match up to the best in college football. Hell no. And this is something that we should celebrate and embrace. And look, Feinbaum's, like you said, NFL number one. College football is still strong number 2, okay?
Yeah.
And you don't need to do this stuff. You don't need – this is placating the bowl people, and, man, it's enough of that. It's just enough. College football is great because of the games are great, obviously, but it's the fan passion and the pageantry and everything around a game it separates it. There is nothing to me quite like all that in any other sport.
Well, and as Dave brings up on Twitter, we brought this up yesterday with Nicole as well, not to mention asking NFL prospects to play another 3 games. A lot of them will probably sit out at that point. I don't know if I buy that they'll sit out if they're in the playoffs, but let's just say it goes the distance. You're not a top 4 seed, and you got to end up playing 3 more games, 17 games to win a national championship. It's probably unlikely that if you're, an 11 seed, probably not going to win the national championship just based on what we've seen out of the top 4 that's usually in there. Probably going to end up being one of those teams most years, but it is possible. Like, you could end up playing 17 games in college to go win a national championship. And to Dave's point, a lot of those NFL prospects on those teams, that's a lot of extra wear and tear.
It is. Now, I don't know. I don't know if I buy that they'd be sitting. That's interesting. I mean,
I agree. I don't think they will.
Yeah. Well, Dave said that, right? Yeah. I think. Even you heard like John Robinson this year when they talked about Caleb Farley, and it's a totally different situation opting out for COVID, and he had more than ample reason given all the stuff. But if NFL GM sees someone who's like, you had a chance to win a national championship, and I mean, I get it. Like, you don't want to get hurt, and you want to maintain your draft status. I think moving forward, we may see some guys who just totally don't play their 3rd season. If they're like, and it's just like, you know what? They're
going to Jamar Chase this thing. And
I think you'll see some of that. But I think if you're in with the team, I think that'd be a hard sell to GMs. Like, okay, so you went through all this stuff. You played the early season game against, whoever, and some of these conference games, and then you didn't at the most important time. I think for the most part, people will be in. But yes, it's asking a ton. It's asking a ton. Even again, forget the 17. I mean, 16. Okay, 12. You got your conference championship game. You're a 1 seed,
and that's hard to do.
Right. 15. Yeah, you've had a few teams that play 15. I mean, you're a 1 seed now. Look at a 16. That's what we used to think of as a full NFL season.
Yes.
But to the point of players sitting, maybe not in the playoff, but what if Ohio State is undefeated? They're in the Big Ten title game. They're clearly going to be in the playoff. What if some banged up Ohio State players, Ryan Day sits them for the Michigan game?
Yeah.
You've got this Ohio State-Michigan game, and then you've got whoever their starting quarterback isn't playing, and they treat that week like it's week 17 in the NFL for playoff teams.
Yeah.
See, now that's a good point, and you think about some other people who are freaking out about that, like how could you miss that? But we've made everything about the playoff. Everything's about the playoff now. So you just automatically are reducing importance from all these things, right? The conference championship, at least that does have more value now in this context, but those big rivalry games, what matters more? Alabama-Auburn, what matters more? For a lot of people, it's how could you say anything matters more? But for Alabama, it's like we want to get through to the end and be healthy.
I don't know what the point is here, but I got somebody on the text line that says, hey, Rexrode, when's the last time you actually sat in a seat in a college stadium, not counting the press box?
Let's see.
Are they calling out your college football fandom here at this point?
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think.
it is part of your job.
Right. It's hard when you cover sports and stuff. It's hard to Now, I do like to go in, I go to Preds games sometimes. College football, have I done that? I guess not. See, it's hard. See, the problem with college football and doing that is that there's so few games. So you're probably covering them, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're not a Preds beat writer, which I'm not, then you can go to stuff like that and enjoy it. I love it. I mean, I love going to baseball games too, but it's been a long time. But I certainly walk into the stadium, see the scene outside the stadium. A lot of times my family will go with me, and they'll go, get tickets, sit out there, wave at me while I'm in the press box. So if you'd like to elaborate on why you asked me that question, I'm here for more interaction with you.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Hey, guys, love the show. When you said honey and vinegar, I believe the correct term for what Vrabel is giving us right now is sunshine and roses. Maybe I just made that up, but I like it. Great job. Love your show.
Thank you.
So was sunshine and roses what you're looking for there?
No, it was the land of milk and honey. That's what
the land of milk and honey.
My dad always used to call when
honey and vinegar.
Yeah, I don't know. We would go to my grandparents' house and land of milk and honey. No chores. Just sit around, do whatever you want.
That's good.
The grandparents are always they don't demand
it's
anything.
Very old reference. Yes.
Yeah, land of milk and honey.
Like really old.
But also
biblical old.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. But also like puppies and rainbows. You can do any sort of combination like ice cream and
anything.
Sugar. I don't know.
Well said. When we come back, we'll be joined by Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee. We'll get into what this offseason has been like for him at Vanderbilt now with the season just a few weeks away. What does the quarterback battle look like as well? All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you, and we are pleased to go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee. Clark, what's going on? How are we doing?
Doing great. Just into this summer swing and having a lot of fun with recruiting, and camp's getting started. So we're staying busy over here, but enjoying every day.
Well, Clark, before we get started on the football side of things, I did kind of meet up with you last week at the Folds of Honor Celebrity Softball game. You were my coach. It was a great time out there. Good to catch up with you. What did you think of that event? How would you rate Robby Stanley, Jared Stillman softball swings out there?
Well, we got a lot of work to do, but I didn't know that going in. I know it now, so we'll have that plotted out over the next year for the next time we have that event. I thought it was fantastic. What a neat cause, and just a special special moment celebrating all those the veterans' families, and it was great to be a part of, and obviously we had a good time too. Came up short in the game, but like I said, I've got a little bit better feel for what it's going to require next season, and we'll get back to work here shortly.
That's right. Make some adjustments along the way. So, Clark, I'm sure the first few weeks and months on this job were a whirlwind. You're coming in from Notre Dame. There's a million different things going on. What's it been like for you trying to settle in here and evaluate where your program is as you've had more time to kind of get your feet underneath you here?
The month of May was really helpful for us. I think that was, with our players having, kind of left and, taking some time at home, gave us a chance really just to collect as a staff to really tighten the lines of communication from staff to staff, in hopes that, we get really good with our staff to player communication, and ultimately what you want is player to player. So all of that has to be strengthened from the top, and we've spent a lot of time just going back through, hey, where do we start? What do we do through the middle? How do we finish? And then how do we plot forward through June and July to make sure we have the best summer possible to get our team to fall camp ready to launch into the season. And we have a long way to go, but we're having fun, and every day is a celebration. And getting our team back in June and getting them back to work has been a blast. We're going to go do some bowling tonight as a team, and just we're enjoying the time together, and again building those connections to where we can face the challenges and adversity that await us, and the great moments of celebration that await us this fall, and that'll be a process, and we're right in the middle of it.
Clark, how would you describe the recruiting landscape right now? Everything has just opened up. I know it's been a long time, and of course you've got, I don't know if chaos is the right word, but you've got everyone going full bore there. You've got the name, image, likeness thing. I know that's down the road, but it's being decided kind of as we speak. The portal is always there as well. And then I'm wondering just how Vanderbilt has been received in your town. How would you describe this time right now from a recruiting perspective?
Well, I think you pretty well just described what life is like. There's a lot. We have a lot of balls in the air, and the one benefit of being new is we're so singularly focused on our identity that we're not caught up in a lot of the other things going on. This is just how we strengthen this team every single day, and so that's both our efforts with our team, that Coach Horgan and his staff are working hard right now to train this team, to prepare them mentally and physically for what awaits in the fall. That's how we connect with our community. The post-pandemic now, where we're able to get out a little more and engage with our community, with our fan base, Nashville and beyond. That's really important to me as a part of my mission here at Vanderbilt, is to really make this program Nashville's team, and that's going to require the building of relationships. And then obviously the recruiting piece, which is both on-campus visits, official visits, unofficial visits, and then also camps, the evaluation process. All of this kind of is on our plate right now, but we're staying focused on what we believe are the three things that matter most, which are those three. And it's been an absolute treat to have recruits on campus to interact with this coaching staff, because there's only so much you can do over Zoom. It's hard, but the interpersonal connections, the energy, the alignment of our staff and our program right now, I think is making headways for us in recruiting, and these relationships will take time, but we've been pleased thus far with our visits.
Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Hey, Clark, when you were first hired here by Vanderbilt, one of the many things we talked to you about was the investment into the program. And it comes out a couple of months ago that Vanderbilt announces the Vandy United Fund, and you're donating a commitment more of $300 million to the athletic department here. How big of a point of discussion was that to you when you talked about taking this job, and how big of a difference is that commitment going to make, in your opinion, to your program?
I always felt like that Vanderbilt football needed a chance, needed an opportunity to reach its potential. I felt that way since I was a player here, and there's a lot of factors embedded in that. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things that can block the pathway to success, but, you know, I believe in this place. I believe in this university. I believe in this program, this athletic department. And, you know, certainly the level of commitment shown in the Vandy United campaign. I mean, the fact that our universities contributed $100 million to that is phenomenal. You know, when I had a chance to meet in the interview process with Candace Lee, we didn't spend a lot of time on, you know, facilities, to be quite honest. You know, what we spent time on was our passion for Vanderbilt and what we believe can be built here. And that was really the only conversation I needed to have. You know, when I felt her passion and her direction and just how aligned we were in what was needed for this program, and it's personal to us both. You know, we're both fighting this as a personal battle because this is our school, it's our program, and we're desperate for it to be successful. I didn't know about the facility project. I didn't know it was on the books, and to me, it's an awesome thing for us to sustain success. And right now, our focus is on purely building the identity that's going to grow into that success. And so, you know, we're going to have to be adaptable. The landscape's going to shift over here. You know, anytime you start bringing wrecking balls in and you know, cranes and you start building, there's going to be some sticking and moving on our end. But we're so excited for the fact that our players will have the nicest facility in the country, that Vanderbilt football and Vanderbilt athletics, you know, will be the best student athlete experience in the country, that they'll have all the resources behind them, all the strength of this university behind them and their efforts. That really is the goal here. And to me, that speaks volumes about the support of this campus, the support of our chancellor, the moment we're in as a football program, as a department. This moment is so powerful. I'm grateful to be here, and this is all about how we sustain our success over time and build a program again that the city of Nashville can get behind and that rallies our university community as well.
Clark, I've heard, you know, fundraising is going well. The locker room's about done. Obviously, you know, there are more details to come on the specifics with the facilities, but how involved in those things are you, along with everything else you have going on with this job?
Well, anything that our players are interacting with is important to me, and I think anything that is reflective of this program is important to me. The messaging is critical, you know, and you have to be very disciplined and very careful with, you know, how you craft the image of the program, you know, and so what we've done is tried to strip away some of the ancillary things and really just focus on Vanderbilt football as the mission statement. I mean, that is the core value, and it's about building value into this program by what we invest and what we commit to. And I'm talking about internally. It's the internal perception that drives the external perception, or the confidence that we have, that we carry for being a part of this program. And so when you talk about a locker room, you know, this is a space that our players our team will be grown in this space, right? This is where our team will be built, day in and day out. I wanted to reflect, again, this alignment of resources with their efforts. I want them to have a level of convenience to get to those resources. I also want the messaging to be clear that rather than be about things that don't matter, we're going to be singularly focused on the things that do matter. And that, again, is building the best team in the country. And so, as far as my involvement, I try to have my hands in everything from a standpoint of if it's going to reflect our program, if it's going to be something that our players are interfacing with, I'm going to need to be involved because we're in the infancy here, and, we got a long way to go, but it's all about pouring that foundation. And so these are foundational components of our program. I need to be attentive to it and make sure that it gives us the best chance to launch into our future.
Clark, last thing for you here. Obviously, Ken Seals coming in last year as a true freshman. I think the third true freshman quarterback to start a season opener in the SEC since like 1972 or something like that. Obviously, had some ups and downs last year, a lot of good as well. What stood out to you watching Ken Seals on film, and what do you think is going to go into him taking the next step as y'all head into his sophomore season now?
Well, we have a quarterback battle here. I think one thing that's really important to us is that we don't have any reason to have a starting quarterback in really at all positions. I mean, we want this to be fluid and competitive, and it needs to be earned every single day. So, between Kenny, Mike Wright, and Jeremy Musa, we have three guys that we believe in. We think can depending on their development this summer and how they advance themselves and work on the things they need to work on, all three of them could be starting quarterbacks here. Obviously, with Kenny, he's got experience, and listen, there's loads of talent there. I mean, I am so excited to be his coach. I'm so excited to have him in this program, and he had a really good spring where I think he came away confident in the things that he does well, and then having clarity with the things he needs to work on moving forward. But I would say the same about Mike Wright and Moose. Those guys, all three, really at times flashed. I thought Mike had a great spring game and showed some of the dynamic athleticism that's going to allow him to be both a guy that can be a play creator with his legs, but also a skilled passer. I believe he threw 3 touchdown passes in that game, which speaks to that. But the thing about the quarterback position that can't be lost is that as important as the singular production is, there's also this element of you're the chemistry builder, you're the connector. And so I'm really interested to see how these guys will strengthen the other 10 positions on the field. That can be through communication, that can be through leadership skills and confidence, and obviously that can be through the rhythm and timing of throwing the ball and putting it in the right location. And so, certainly excited about Ken, and he's come back from home in great shape, and I know he's very focused on winning the quarterback battle, but same for Mike and same for Moose. And what a luxury to have 3 guys that can battle it out. And, for Vanderbilt, we can line up with the best combination that gives us the most competitive chance to win games. And even beyond game 1, this is something that we'll want to continue to evaluate as the season goes, because for us, it's always going to be about how we get the best 11 players on that field and how we maximize and optimize our ability to make plays on offense.
Absolutely. Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Clark, I'm going to hit up the batting cages today. We'll get some work started on the softball game for next year. Appreciate so much you taking time to join us, and good luck as you continue to move forward here with football season right around the corner.
Hey, guys, it's always a pleasure to be on with you. And listen, we'll start up practice in July. Just be on the lookout for the email and make sure we're on time too, Robby, please. I don't want to waste any time.
That's right. I'll see what I can do on that front. Appreciate you, Clark.
All right, guys. Y'all take care. We'll see you.
Absolutely. Clark Lee, Vanderbilt football coach, has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. When we come back, we'll react a little bit to what Clark had to say there. Also time for Call Your Shot Friday as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
sports weekend has arrived. You know what that means.
Shoot your shot.
It's time for Call Your Shot Friday with Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
And it is that time of the week, time for Call Your Shot Friday here on Robby and Rexrode. We need your bold predictions in the world of sports. Let us know on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. It could be with the NFL. It could be the NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs. Any way you want to take it. The French Open, still underway as well. Any way you want to take it. It's available on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe Rexrode, how did we do last week in our edition of Call Your Shot Friday?
By the way, did we all, before I get to that, did we all call the shot that the Titans will trade for Julio Jones at some point?
We did.
Porth did a couple weeks ago.
I think I did first.
With Rashaan Evans going back. But you know,
I was the most right.
Half right. You were the most right. Yes.
Congrats, Rob.
Is this just last week? Okay, well, let's just go last week then. Okay, my called shot, trade for Julio with a 2022 third and fourth, and we'll pay all the salary.
Yep.
But you said a second.
And I said it would happen over the weekend.
And you said it would happen over the weekend. So there you go. So that's
nailed it.
That's pretty good shots.
Nailed it.
That's pretty good. I'll go through mine real quick. I also said the Bucks will beat the Nets in 6. I know they won.
Good.
I know they won last night, but they had like Joey Buckets couldn't hit a shot, and Durant and Kyrie weren't shooting well, and Harden didn't play, and
they look overmatched.
It's not going to happen.
It's still possible.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There you go. I also have the Mavs beat the Clips in 7.
I
have the Canes will win in 7. And I had Vandy will cruise to its regional win in baseball. Tennessee will also win, but I had them having to beat Duke Monday to advance, so I'll take half credit. Robby, we already gave you your Julio Jones credit. You had Colorado will win the first of 2 straight Stanley Cups. Let's give you a big
Woo!
You got your Suns versus Bucks NBA Finals.
One of those two is looking good.
Man, y'all are all in on the Fear the Deer last Friday.
We went on Fear the Deer for sure.
Yeah.
Woof.
Well, we're not done with that. And you had this is a really good shot. You had Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter combining for 21 strikeouts. They combined for 20 last week.
One off.
That's very good. Elijah, Bucks beat the Nets in 7. I mean, we were just a total Bucks homer show last week.
Really were.
I kind of didn't even.
I think it's just well, I can't speak for the other two. I just hate Brooklyn so much that's why I did it. I don't know if Rexrode, do you hate the Brooklyn Nets?
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Maybe not as much because I don't hate Kyrie Irving like some people do. I'm not a fan of James Harden. He's an incredible talent. It's not even personal. I just don't like watching a guy dominate the ball for 18 seconds of dribbling and then travel doing it like a 3-step back. He's incredible.
He does do that.
You know, and Durant kind of like I am totally like when Durant was on the Warriors, I loved him, and now I'm like, he's kind of a baby. But he also had Canadians will beat the Jets in 6. Elijah did. So good job, Elijah. And then he said Julio Jones will be traded this week, which is kind of a weak called shot, but he didn't say to who. He just said he'll be traded.
Well, he's right.
He was right. He is technically right. I think we need to start with Porth, right? Because Porth has got to have like so many shots built up.
We always start with Porth. So with that in mind, Ryan Porth, your called shots for the week are what?
I feel like it's been a while since I've participated in Call Your Shot Friday.
Yeah.
Because there was the Friday after the Preds got knocked out where I was not in here.
Correct.
Because of the wedding weekend. So with that said, I only have 3.
Okay.
So first, Vegas will sweep Montreal.
Ooh. No faith in Shea Weber and the Habs.
Montreal, it's a nice story, but they have not faced a team like Vegas all season long.
I think we could be on the verge of finding out that the Canadian division, not
frauds.
all that good. Yeah.
They were all frauds.
Not all that good.
The entire time.
Yeah.
Another Stanley Cup playoff called shot. The Tampa Bay Lightning will repeat as Stanley Cup champs.
Okay.
And Andre Vasilevsky will win the Conn Smythe.
There you go. He's been awfully good in the playoffs so far.
And then final called shot, Derrick Henry will be on the Madden cover. of Madden 22.
I like that. Madden 22, Derrick Henry on the cover. This is the called shot from Ryan Porth. I like it. Joe Rexrode, your called shots of the week.
I like that one. Now, we talked about that yesterday. There's a little bit of a leak, right? Was that true or not? Was that ever debunked? Like in February, there was a leak of what people thought was the Madden cover.
We don't know.
But either way, you will get credit for the called shot. Okay, so you got I'm late typing. Vasilevsky.
Conn Smythe. Derrick Henry, cover athlete of Madden.
And then but there was one more.
Habs getting swept.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's not that much of a shot, but okay.
Yeah, it is.
A sweep?
Come on.
Look at those teams.
I know.
How could it not be a sweep?
Oh, it could not be a sweep.
Okay, well, we've said that about many playoff series.
That's true.
And it hasn't happened.
Yeah. But this one's obvious.
I did say the Oilers-Jets series was going to be a sweep.
Yeah, you did.
Just
had it the other way around.
Yeah.
Golly.
So, Joe Rexrode, your called shots of the week.
My called shot. All right. So I've got a little bit of a shot. This is long term, and we can't measure it exactly, but I think we'll know. Okay. My called shot is that Jared Stillman, like Vols football fans, will, by the time we get to August, be 100% in. I heard the shift yesterday. So like Vols fans with Heupel, it's like, what the Heupel, right?
Yeah.
Like we did the same thing. And by the season, but that offense and Stillman will be the biggest Julio stan by like mid camp.
Stillman
saw all of Nashville media.
He saw Julio do like those shuttle drills yesterday. He's all in now.
Oh man, he's excited. He heard him say, like I'm a team guy.
Yeah.
He's I'm with it. I'm all there. So that's one. Also,
Chandler Jones.
Now this is I think a shot with the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Islanders will take the Lightning to 7.
Okay.
I think Trotz is going to take it the distance. They're going to overachieve again. They're going to exceed expectations. They're going to make it real close. Ultimately, Tampa Bay will prevail. Also, I'm just going to say my Cup final. That will be less competitive. Lightning over Vegas in 5 in the Cup final.
5.
And one more called shot. I mean, I know these are all kind of like longer-term ones. I don't have a great one for this weekend, but the Utah Jazz are going to win it all.
I like it. They look pretty good.
Utah Jazz are going to win it all.
Over Brooklyn in the final?
Probably. I haven't thought about that. They're just going to win it all.
They're winning it all.
Yeah, probably.
There we go.
And that will be more satisfying for all of us.
Yeah, it would. I'll go quickly. I'm going to say Novak Djokovic upsets Rafael Nadal today. Nadal is money at the French Open. Great on the clay surface. I think Djokovic upsets him today. A lot of people, Nadal the heavy favorite. I mean a heavy favorite. On the FanDuel Sportsbook, he's like minus 275. Give me Djokovic to pull off the upset today.
I like it.
I say the Phoenix Suns sweep the Denver Nuggets. They're up 2-0 right now. Game 3 tonight. They're on the road in Denver. I think they're just a lot better. I think they sweep the Denver Nuggets. They get it done on the road. Going to be a tough week in Denver. Very tough week in Denver. Avalanche out last night. The Nuggets shortly follow against the Suns.
And then they don't get Aaron Rodgers.
That's
Brutal
funny you
summer.
say that. That's my next called shot.
Uh-oh.
Aaron Rodgers starts week 1 for the Green Bay Packers.
Ooh.
He hangs around.
I did that like a month ago.
I was going to say now, have you
What's that got to do with me?
I'm just saying. You're a little late on this.
Well, has anything happened?
You can both be right. You haven't had any other Aaron Rodgers called shots? Like him going somewhere else? Okay.
Why would I call he's going somewhere else?
I think I called the shot he's going to Denver, right?
I think you did.
Yeah. All right. There we go. We all have Rodgers called shots.
There you go.
All right.
Let's quickly go to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Alex texting in, the baseball sweep LSU and book their ticket to Omaha. So Alex, a lot of faith in Tony Vitello and company to get it done against LSU. Caleb saying the Canadians will beat Vegas in 6 games. So Port's saying Canadians are going to get swept. Caleb says Canadians beating Vegas in 6. They're going to be a heavy underdog.
Imagine if that happens.
Going to be a heavy underdog.
What if it's Montreal Islanders
Awesome.
for the Stanley Cup?
Greg also says Montreal beats Vegas in 6. Have y'all watched Vegas?
Man.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, they cranked it to a level that even Colorado couldn't match.
Yeah. Michael on the text line from Madison says the Madden 22 cover was leaked as Derrick Henry, so it's not really a called shot.
Well, do we know that's a legit leak?
No, I mean,
it's not been made official.
They've never confirmed that was like the actual cover. So, but yeah, there's a lot of speculation. Something leaked, something came out, but that's happened before, right? Where people create something to make it look like
you
a leak.
can easily create a leak with Madden.
And also, who knows? Maybe the Madden people saw the leak and said, "Well, then never mind. We're going to do
Julio Jones,
Tom Brady."
Julio Jones on the cover from the Titans.
There you go. Wow.
There you go.
Imagine that.
Maybe they make it the three-headed monster now. Julio, AJ, and Derrick Henry.
NFL, by the way, put out a tweet like the Titans trio. There's got to be a better nickname. I don't know what
we
it
can
is,
come
but
up with
there's gotta
something.
be.
Yeah. Speaking of the Titans, when we come back, we'll get back into the Titans. Turron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD, will join us next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Third hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. And it's that time of the week we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD, Turron Davenport, presented by Freedom Tire Guys, Nashville's premier mobile tire company, online at freedomtireguys.com. TD, what's going on? How we doing?
Hey, what's going on, man? Every day is a good day, so, that question is already answered.
That's right. You're exactly right about that. And, TD, I got to tell you, we've had a lot of people this morning on the text line, on Twitter, on social media. They are fired up after watching Julio Jones on the field yesterday with the Titans and the drills that he was running. What'd you think? How'd Julio Jones look? How excited should Titans fans be about what's transpired this week with Julio Jones coming into the fold?
Oh, Titans fans should be uber excited, and it's rare that you could get a player that has the potential to be so impactful, at this point in the season. You know what I mean? Normally that's something that happens in March, April, but here it is. They're able to finagle a way to get Julio Jones to the Titans and fit him under the cap, and everything is just hunky-dory, and I think people should be excited, not only because of how he looked out there. You saw the foot fire on the drills, you saw just the way he eats up space, man. 2 steps, he's 5 yards already, and just the box drills, watching him and all that stuff, it was really good to see, and then to have him out there helping the younger receivers, even Josh Reynolds. But I think above all else, there were a couple things from him at his presser that should make people really happy. And it was when I asked him about coming into this system that's not going to really be guaranteed to give him a bunch of targets. He said he's never been a stat guy. He's a team guy. And that's something that everyone needed to hear. And then he admitted towards the end that he rushed back from his quad/hamstring injury. And, that is something you don't rush back from. Those are injuries that time is the only thing for that. But he had a nice message for those who are doubting him, and he said, stay tuned. So I think it was really good all around.
I mean, I need some negativity now, TD. Like, tell me something bad about this. Like, it's been a week of like pure a buffet of excitement here. But I mean, is there anything right now that's concerning you?
Well, I mean, he is 32 years old, and I get it. That's not that's 12 years younger than me, you know what I mean? But still, he's 32. So by football terms, that is getting up there. There's always a potential. Like right now, he looks good. I mean, this was just shorts and T-shirts with a helmet, and most people could be out there looking good. So, you do want to balance it. There's always a chance, injury is 100% likely to happen. Just how severe of an injury is the case, because everybody every year gets injured. So really for him, it's just a matter of having that right maintenance and being able to get him to, carry through from week to week. And I think, the other thing, if you want to say there's a negative, if you remember in 2019, Tannehill just could not get on the same page with Corey Davis, right? So what did he do? He went and threw with him in the summer, in the off season, and then focused on it during camp. And it took some time to get there. So I say that to say this: could it take the same amount of time for them to get on the same page as far as Tannehill and Julio? I don't know, but it seems like there's an effort to make it happen, because he targeted him a lot of times in practice, at OTAs yesterday. And in fact, the first throw that he made in team period was to what? Julio Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Turron Davenport on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, TD, when you factor in Julio Jones coming into this offense, obviously everybody benefits from that. Todd Downing benefits from that. I mean, you can go up and down the list. Who do you think benefits the most from Julio Jones coming in? Is it Derrick Henry? Is it A.J. Brown? Todd Downing? How would you go about answering that?
Yeah, I wrote about that actually earlier this week, and it's A.J. Brown in my opinion, because he was getting ready to have to face nothing but double coverage. They were going to bracket him and do all of those things to stop him, because no slight on Josh Reynolds, but I mean, he is someone that the opposing defenses would not be too afraid to put single coverage on. And that's a good opportunity for Reynolds. It was going to be. But now with Julio Jones in the mix, you can't really double team A.J. Brown because you got a guy who is equally as dangerous on the other side. So now it's just, man, they both are going to be able to really get their rocks off in this offense. And I think it does benefit A.J. Brown because he's not going to consistently see the top corner. He'll see a top corner from time to time, but more than likely they're not going to play cat coverage. It'll just be sides, and that's a good thing for both of those guys. So I think A.J. Brown stands to benefit the most.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I mean, first of all, I know how much you love the schematics of the game and week to week, seeing what different coordinators on offensive or defense are going to do against what the Titans are doing. I mean, I got to say, I can't wait to see what some of the plans are, against this offense, against this trio of skill players. So you don't think – and one of the questions I had was, okay, so let's say you have a team with a dominant corner, one guy who's clearly your one, like a Jalen Ramsey with the Rams, right? Like, okay, if you are traveling with anyone at various times, which one of these guys would it be? But you think teams will probably just have to just kind of play more straight up and honest and just have more safety help for the most part.
Yeah, I think, and that's the whole thing. It's tough to dial up a defensive coverage to have safety help because you a lot of times have to have your safety inching towards the box because Derrick Henry. You can't forget about Derrick Henry, So I think that's the balance, and that's where Julio Jones was saying, pick your poison. I could see, I'm not saying teams won't use cat coverage against them. I just, you better have two very good man corners if you're going to do that. And even if you have two very good man corners and they come out in 11 personnel, well, Josh Reynolds is going against your number 3 corner. And that's typically an advantage that will probably work out for the Titans because I think Josh Reynolds is a pretty solid player. So those are kind of things that you have to consider. But then even, if they go cat coverage, right, and have a guy travel with either one of them, remember, both of these guys could play the slot as well as outside. So now you could bump them inside and have them line up in the slot. And even if a corner is capable of bumping inside and covering over top of the slot, it's a different situation now because here it is, you can't use the sideline as a 12th defender. It's not there for you. There's two-way go. I mean, there's all types of stuff. You saw A.J. Brown against the Bears, line up in the slot and use that spray release. He ran that fade, and they just, dropped it right in over his shoulder, and it was a touchdown. Those are the things. You saw Brown against the Ravens and Marlon Humphrey. This is an excellent example right here. Marlon Humphrey is he's one of the best cover corners in the league, right? And he has the ability to bump inside. But when he bumped inside against A.J. Brown, it was advantage Titans because you saw what Brown did to Humphrey in that game, and then they started to adjust a bit. But so you could make things happen that way, being able to move the guys across the formation.
Well, you hit on another thing I wanted to ask you in terms of what you think we'll see. So the Titans are in 12 last year, 34% of the time, one back, two tight end, second in the NFL. It seems like more 11 would be, which is, of course, 3 wides, one back, one tight end, would be more abundant this year. Do you think that's the case, or do you think they still do a lot of the same things formationally, even with this group changing the way it has?
I think you'll see more 11 personnel, 3 wide. And one of the things that I picked up on for John Robinson was he specifically, remember he pointed to that Seahawks game, and he was talking about how Julio Jones was battling Jamal Adams and how he's willing to go in and dig out a linebacker, dig out a safety. A.J. Brown will do that too. So I wouldn't be surprised. And these are big, bulky guys, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised to see them line up in the slot, and obviously you're going to pass them the ball out of that, but you want to show balance. So I wouldn't be surprised seeing them, block down on a linebacker or those type of things. And in essence, be a tight end, right? In a close split to the line to the tackle. you know what I mean, and be someone to help out there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. So they could run out of 11 personnel. I don't think it will be an issue.
TD, what do you got on tap for Talking with TD this week? A star-studded edition of Talking with TD this week.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we got Teddy Bruschi, man. Had to, dial up the Black Book, use the phone a friend feature, and we got him on the show. And he was awesome. Awesome. If you get a chance to check that out, definitely do. He touched on Randy Moss coming to the Patriots and, just how that relates to Julio Jones coming to the Titans. It was really interesting. Compared Mike Vrabel to Bill Belichick, I thought that was pretty cool as well. So you got that. We got D. Orlando Ledbetter just giving, a good background, a good timeline of Julio Jones getting to the Falcons and his time there. Really awesome content there. And then, the Nate and TD show is something that we condensed to a segment this week. And he just talked about just the fit as well. And we got Run TMC with Chris Sanders. So it's packed. That's what we do, man.
That's right. Pack show for TD. Talking with TD. It's you can find it at T Davenport _NFL on Twitter. I just retweeted that from my account as well. Turron Davenport joins us every week here on Robby and Rexrode Fridays at 8 o'clock. Presented by Freedom Tire Guys, Nashville's premier mobile tire company, online at freedomtireguys.com. TD, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to join us.
Appreciate you guys. Take care. Have a blessed weekend.
Absolutely. You as well. When we come back, we'll react a little bit to what TD had to say there and get back into Julio Jones. Seemed like a motivated Julio Jones yesterday in his press conference with the Titans. What could that mean for the Titans on the field as they move forward here? We'll get into that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. ESPN 94.9 is the home for Nashville Sounds baseball. Tonight, the Sounds host the Indianapolis Indians, the AAA affiliate of the Pittsburgh Pirates, at First Horizon Park. Pre-game show with Jeff Him starts at 6:50, and the first pitch is at 7:05. Nashville Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans and by 312 Pizza Company, taking on the Indians Saturday and Sunday as well. So a full weekend of Nashville Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Talking Julio Jones and the Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Andrew from Dover on the text line. Derrick Henry has 1,500-plus yards. A.J. Brown with 1,000-plus yards. Julio Jones, 900-plus yards. And Ferkster and Reynolds both with more than 600 yards. Tannehill, 40-plus touchdowns. That's the called shot from Andrew from Dover.
Okay.
It's a high bar.
Those are it's a high bar, but those are all numbers that I could see. I could see happening.
If Julio
the 40
Jones,
touchdowns for Tannehill, that's an interesting one because I still feel like, Derrick Henry's going to get a lot of touchdowns.
Well, the other part of that is
they might score enough for them to all have a lot.
Well, like one of the knocks, and there have been very few, but one of the knocks on Julio Jones, especially if you've owned him in fantasy football over the last few years.
And I have.
He didn't score a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
Or at least he hasn't scored a lot of touchdowns. I mean, he had 3 in 2017 in 16 games. He did have 8 in 2018, 6 in 2019. But, for instance, A.J. Brown had 11 touchdowns last year. Julio Jones has never had 11 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that part of it is weird with Julio Jones.
It is.
That he doesn't have more touchdowns.
Right. Because we've seen him.
Perfect for it. Just go up and get it.
Yeah.
I blame Matt Ryan.
That's probably what it is.
I blame probably like Tony Gonzalez in the early years because Tony Gonzalez was the perfect red zone threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Logan,
that's part of it,
on the text line says, y'all stop sleeping on Anthony Ferkser. We get that once a day. There's a lot of people accusing us of sleeping on Anthony Ferkser.
I don't know what we're saying. He's a heck of a story. He's an undrafted guy that has found a role, and good for him. And basically, he's a starting tight end now on a very good team. But what is sleeping on him? What is the appropriate level of being awake to Anthony Ferkser?
Some of y'all are acting like Anthony Ferkser is Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
And we're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. Anthony Ferkser, I think, is a good player. If you think that Anthony Ferkser is absolutely proven that he's a number one tight end in this league, I think you lost your mind. He could be. He could work out to be really good. But I think to sit here and act like Anthony Ferkser is absolutely going to be the answer at tight end is naive. He could be, but we don't know that yet at this point.
Yeah,
that's just the way I see it. People may disagree with that, but that's how I view Anthony Ferkser. I think he's very good. I don't know that he's a number one tight end.
I think Anthony Ferkser has been a good pass catcher, been very good in the red zone, and I think he'll make plays this year. It's good to have him. I think it was smart of the Titans to re-sign him, certainly given especially the depth chart of the position. But, yeah, Jonnu Smith is a huge loss at that position, and I think Anthony Ferkser needs more help, and I think that position needs more depth.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ron texting in. Has HBO Hard Knocks ever contacted the Titans for filming? This would be a pretty good year for it. Elijah told me he doesn't think they've contacted the Titans and he thinks they only do non-playoff teams. Do you know if that's true?
Only do non-playoff teams?
No, that's true. They do non-playoff teams from the year before and no teams with a new head coach.
Yep.
I did not know the non-playoff team thing.
Because this would be, to his point, this would be a pretty good year.
And what's the rationale for the non-playoff team thing?
I guess a punishment for not making the playoffs. I don't know.
I don't
know.
Just so they're trying.
Belichick probably negotiated that.
Probably.
Or Robert Kraft.
Probably. Never have to go on there. What's awesome is that's their rule, and they still haven't done the Lions. So plenty of opportunities to do the Lions.
Well, I tell you, if that happened this year, I'd be all for it.
Some Lions?
Yeah. Little Dan Campbell behind the scenes.
That's another rule, the first-year head coach, unfortunately.
No, it sucks.
But next year, guys, let's think about some Dan Campbell while you have a chance to do Dan Campbell.
That could be your last opportunity is next year. See what happens on that front.
We know what Hard Knocks 2022 needs to be.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says, with this roster on paper being a serious threat in the AFC, are we now to the point in Vrabel's tenure where he'll be graded solely on his postseason performance? I don't know about solely.
Well, this team looks really good on paper. Could be, I think it's the clear favorite to me in the AFC South. I think it's got a case to be the team right behind Kansas City, but no one other than Kansas City probably should ever put the playoffs on the schedule. So, I mean, there are teams every year that everyone expects to get to the playoffs that don't get to the playoffs. So, I mean, I would answer that by if Vrabel is getting there year after year, that alone is something that can't be dismissed. But certainly, if you go in there and you can't get back to winning some playoff games, at some point people will be upset with that. I guess this team this year, the expectations are so sky high that this year the evaluation of him and them is up there.
Yeah.
But it's also, I mean, let's take this down the road with Tannehill and Henry and the window closing with this particular group. You know, if Vrabel's the coach, he may be at some point judged in the mid-2020s on, wow, you got that team to 8-8 like Mike Tomlin with the Steelers, right?
Yeah.
And it just depends on what you're working with. But it looks like right now he's working with the best roster he's had.
Well, and to the texter's point, like if they get to the playoffs this year and they're one and done again like they were this past year, I mean, I think that's going to be considered a failure with this group. I think it should be considered a failure with this group.
So this year, yes. I'm just saying if you're making this like long, like year after year, I'd focus on this year. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, next year, who knows what could happen on the injury front, on the salary front, on the. I mean, the cap is projected at 208, but it's actually not official. There's a lot of things that we still don't know about 22. This year, I would agree. If they don't win a playoff game this year, people will be mad at Mike Vrabel. And that's fine. I mean, that's totally fair. That's where they are right now.
102.5 The Game and T-Mobile have partnered up to give you a chance to experience a Nashville SC game this season. Tune in every Monday to Darren, Donick, and Chase for the keyword to text in to win. Good luck from 102.5 The Game, T-Mobile, and Nashville SC. When we come back, we will get into Julio Jones and what a motivated Julio Jones can mean for this Titans team. Also, continue to take your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Listen to the game every weekday for your chance to win $1,000. It's the game's 1K payday presented by Kentucky Kingdom and Hurricane Bay. Listen for keywords at 9, at noon, and at 3 o'clock. And when you hear it, go to thegamenashville.com and enter the keyword for a shot at $1,000. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. And Joe, Julio Jones speaking to the media yesterday on the field for the first time as a member of the Titans, in a press conference for the first time as a member of the Titans. He had a lot of interesting things to say that we're going to break down for the remainder of this segment here. But one of the things he talked about was his health and where that stands right now heading into minicamp next week for the Titans. Obviously, Julio Jones, 9 games last year with the Falcons, and then was dealing with some hamstring, quad injuries, and has kind of had a foot issue that's been nagging him as well. He looked pretty healthy yesterday, and Julio Jones addressed his health and just what Titans fans can expect from him as they move forward here. Here's what Julio Jones had to say yesterday.
For me, at the end of the day, I believe in me. I know what I have in the tank, and we're talking about age is 32. Like, I'm young. Like, in football, you can say it's old, but you either do it or you don't. You know, this game don't change for me. I'm still fast and still strong. And to, the games last year, I just, had an issue where I didn't take enough time to heal up properly. But, that was just my decision on going out there and just playing. There's no excuses, things like that. But I'll be ready to go. For those who questioning my health and things like that, just stay tuned.
So that was Julio Jones yesterday saying stay tuned. For those questioning his health, saying, look, football boils down to, can you still do it or can you not? He believes he can. And look, it's pretty obvious Julio Jones has heard the talk about his age and being 32 years old. And apparently he feels like that's not going to be a factor with him and that he still has a lot left in the tank. It sounded to me like a pretty motivated Julio Jones. Now, look, it's a press conference in June. It has nothing to do with what we're actually going to see on the field from Julio Jones when the bullets are live and you start to see live action here. And one injury changes things. We know that in the NFL. But I do wonder, and I got to wondering yesterday, like if we see a highly motivated Julio Jones and he still is as fast as he has been, he still is as strong as he has been, like he pointed out in that answer, this could be a pretty special player the Titans are still getting. And we've talked about, if it's 80% of Julio Jones, you'll take that if you're the Titans. Well, what if it's higher? What if it's like 90, 95% of Julio Jones of what we've seen? To me, that's a huge game changer if you're the Titans with Julio Jones coming in and playing that way.
Yes, and also when you look at, especially listen and just see what unfolded here, which, again, a lot of Falcons fans are like, oh, Julio in an OTA, really?
Yeah.
But think about what yesterday was and then compare it to the auspicious debuts of Vic Beasley and Jadeveon Clowney, right?
It's quite different.
I mean, especially Beasley. You're like, wait, what is going on with you? Like, I don't even know what the deal is. Was he mad they signed Clowney? I still don't know what the heck that was.
Julio showed up, so that was a good start.
Well, Julio showed up for something I never would have expected him to show up for.
Exactly. Yeah.
I thought, okay, maybe minicamp next week. Actually, originally, I believe he was supposed to do his physical Monday, this coming Monday. But, yeah, never would have expected him to be in an OTA. He's in there. And then you think back to those. Now, I remember Clowney's first day was very much like yesterday from a media perspective. We're all gathered around and, ooh, Clowney, look at him running around. I remember saying, like, gosh, he looks like a tight end out there running around, But again, it was also at the last second, like, hey, what defense you guys run? Okay, let's do it. Okay, yeah, we are playing the Broncos. Who are we playing this week? Broncos? All right, here we go. Meanwhile, you got Julio Jones here in June in an OTA. There is an obvious contrast with that. Doesn't guarantee that it's going to be a complete contrast on the field, but I'm barring, a setback that you wouldn't be able to predict. I bet this works out a little better than those two things.
I had watching the awesome videos that you tweeted out there, Joe, yesterday.
Amazing.
I had a similar feeling just having the visual of Julio in a Titans uniform and going through those drills, and compared to the others going through the drills at the same time, it was on another level or two. Had the same kind of feeling kind of gloss over me of, holy crap, he's in a Titans uniform, as I did when Peter Forsberg walked out for warm-ups in his first game with the Preds of, holy crap, Peter Forsberg is in a Preds uniform.
Yep.
Interesting. That's going back, too.
Mustard uniform?
And like no, I think his debut was in Navy.
Yeah, I think it was too.
They played the Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that you remember that is just unbelievable to
I
me.
think they lost that game, maybe. I don't know.
Way to go,
don't mess it up with I think they lost that game. Say, and they lost 3-2, I remember, on a goal with 7 minutes left in the third.
Right.
That's
Great
still
memory
impressive,
for
though.
Porth. Yeah.
That's an interesting comparison. I mean, so that's the thing. I did think of Clowney just a year earlier on the field. But, yes, everything else around it so far has been very different. Clowney, again, like Clowney didn't work out, but I mean, like it was, go to the last possible second and then just sort of, I'm hurt, I'm going back to Houston. I mean, Beasley was just bizarre.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
And by the way, I've heard some of this too, this whole, don't go get more Falcons players. I mean, again, that's just like you don't
draft anybody from Georgia
or Clemson, because of Kevin Dodd, or Georgia because Isaiah Wilson. Keep drafting players from Clemson and Georgia.
Generally speaking, it'll work out pretty well.
Yeah.
At Gators_Z on Twitch says, Julio's injury history is so overblown. The man has played 135 of 160 games in his career, and 15 of those missed games came in 2 years. That's a good point. Now, the injury history, I agree, is overblown. You also start to worry more about injuries when you get into your lower 30s.
Right.
And that's kind of the point.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, look, he's been incredibly durable when you think of how, not just that he's played these games, that he's been a guy who gets the ball a lot, who the defense wants to take shots at, right? I mean, it's different in the NFL than it used to be, where that number one receiver, any chance a safety gets to take his helmet off, he's taking it. It's not like that anymore, which is a good thing. But people still want to lay a hit on him when they can lay a hit on him, and it's fantastic durability. But he's 32, and of all the things, the hammy last year, I mean, I think that spoke well to Julio as a competitor, because he came back 2 weeks after having to leave a game and tried to go, and he kind of was, we know how the hammy thing can go. That can really be a problem for a whole season for a player. But the foot thing for him is probably the bigger thing. That's been sort of an ongoing deal with him.
Yep.
I'll be willing to bet right now he probably misses a few practices next year, and he has some questionables on the injury report. But if it's the same thing that it mostly was in his career of he's there on Sundays,
you'll take it.
Yeah, and again, if it's high percentage of what he was on those past Sundays, yeah, it'll work out pretty well for the Titans.
By the way, the Preds lost Peter Forsberg's debut to the Minnesota Wild 4-1 back in 2007. Just so you know.
There you go.
February 17th, 2007.
Oh, man.
This is you Googling now.
Yes.
Okay.
I think a week later was when they played what still to this day is maybe the best regular season game I've ever seen, between the Red Wings and the Predators. Peter Forsberg game winner.
It was exactly 1 week later.
Yep.
Okay, so you're
about
in
that?
there too. Look at the big brain on Robby.
That's right. Have some, Porth. Let's go to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joey from Gallatin texting in. I think what Julio proved overall yesterday is that he is the definition of a professional. Humble and motivated, patient with his new city. That speaks volumes on his intentions to do well here. I give him mad props.
Yeah, and I will say that of all the athleticism you saw and everything and the things he said, I thought one thing that really stood out to me was him talking to other guys. And Reynolds in particular was one interaction that I really took note of. It was in goal line, I think after Reynolds took a rep. I don't think the ball even came his way, but Julio immediately went over to him, and no, I could not hear them talking. It's too far away, but he's got the big, and he's trying to show him something about this and that, and that was good. Actively trying to talk craft with young players. And Josh Reynolds talked after the thing yesterday about
how valuable that could be for him.
Well, and I think TD tweeted out earlier this week a video from Julio with the Falcons when he's mic'd up in a practice, and that's basically what he was doing and the whole time. I mean, he's sitting there just kind of going through routes, going through different techniques, and we've had a couple people text this morning, like just that with, number one, going up against that if you're the Titans defense, I think that's going to be really beneficial for their secondary players, especially their young secondary players. But, I mean, guys like Reynolds, I mean, even A.J. Brown. I mean, A.J. Brown, we feel great about A.J. Brown. Obviously, as you've said, I mean, he's a football junkie. He's really, really good. I still think A.J. Brown has some things to learn in this league. And Julio Jones, pretty good guy to have around for that, too.
Sure. There's a lot of little tricks to the trade that Julio Jones has a big bag full of them. So, I mean, it does feel like this just overwhelming stream of like positivity, which kind of freaks me out sometimes. Well, it's like, okay, let's cast some.
Are you still unseasonably pleasant today?
Yeah, I guess so.
As Vrabel said,
let's cast some doubt or suspicion on this whole thing. But
you media types.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, go back to like some of the comments from others, I think, this week, and a good point made by someone about Saban. I think most college coaches know, like, you better be straight up with NFL people. It can hurt you if you're not.
Yeah.
Saban's certainly going to be straight up with people. So, Vrabel, I tried to see if he'd tell us anything about the conversation. He didn't tell us anything. I'm not surprised. But I still think that's worth pointing out because, first of all, I think it's smart to go there. And I didn't realize that Vrabel said apparently he goes down there and Saban helps him.
Apparently so.
Helps him with the coaching. I'd love to know more about that. But the fact that you came away from that conversation, if you're Mike Vrabel, fully, like in on this move, probably speaks as loudly as anything anyone said yesterday.
The Nashville Predators and 102.5 The Game jointly host a 615-day celebration presented by Social Furniture at Fordyce Center in Bellevue, benefiting Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee, coming up this Tuesday. During the 12-hour window from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 102.5 The Game will broadcast live from Fordyce Center in Bellevue. Fans will have multiple opportunities to take the ice during donation-based public skate sessions. Draft Picks Restaurant and Bar will also be open all day long. Outside from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., the Fordyce Center Bellevue parking lot will be overflowing with food and beverage options, including Hunt Brothers, Coke and Dr. Pepper, as well as face painting, a photo booth, music from DJ Kev, and other Nashville Predators partner activations to further benefit Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee. The Nashville Predators Foundation, empowered by Smile Direct Club, is running a silent auction, which is live until 6:15 p.m. on June 15th. Text Preds to 76278 to bid on exciting sports merchandise and signed Predators apparel. 100% of the proceeds will go directly to the charity. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/615day. When we come back, there was an interesting exchange last night between a reporter for the Colorado Avalanche and Nathan McKinnon, and it ranks up there with one of the dumbest questions I've ever heard. We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. You're on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth there with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Joe Rexrode stirring the pot over here, literally stirring the coffee pot. Welcome back in.
Thanks. So I got to hear this. You got someone try to help us out?
What?
You just told us this during the break, Porth. Someone was like, hey, it's embarrassing for you guys. Come on, tell me.
Someone called in saying that, tried to correct us that it was Philip Forsberg.
And not Peter?
And not Peter Forsberg.
Oh.
I was like, well,
they have been compared before.
They have
asked if they're related.
We made it clear that we were talking about Peter Forsberg.
Yeah.
In 2007.
Thanks, Hall of Famer. Hockey Hall of Famer.
Appreciate it, though.
Yeah.
Julio Jones, probably a Hall of Famer, too. I don't think there's any question about it.
Hopefully it works out better for Julio in a Titans uniform than it did for Peter Forsberg.
I agree.
In a Preds uniform.
I agree.
He had some moments.
Yeah, I mean, he's okay. He's hurt, though.
Played 17 games.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully Julio plays 17 games
this
year.
In my mind, I thought Peter Forsberg had a season that was decent, but okay, guess not.
No, it was like 21 points in 17 games or something like that.
That's pretty good.
I mean,
it was like 4 goals, 13 assists.
It was
no more than that.
It was 15 points, 17 games.
Oh, okay. Well,
and then the playoffs too, which did not go well. So there you go.
Hey, they could be the same way. It could work out in similar fashion here. You don't know.
You don't. We'll see what happens on that front. But yes, Peter Forsberg, 2007, Nashville Predators. Speaking of the Nashville Predators, an opponent in their division next year will be the Colorado Avalanche. They're going to get back in. And Porth is laughing at me at that attempt at a transition.
That's a tremendous segue.
I mean, I thought it went pretty well.
I'm with
speaking of Peter Forsberg's former team.
Yeah, speaking of Peter Forsberg's former team, the Colorado Avalanche eliminated last night from the Stanley Cup playoffs. They lose 4 in a row against Vegas after going up 2-0 in the series to lose the series. And Nathan MacKinnon, who obviously the star player for the Avalanche, one of the best players in the league, a nominee for the Hart Trophy, had his postseason end-of-game press conference last night. And look, first off, you could tell from the moment he set foot on that podium, he had no desire to be there, no interest in being there after just being eliminated from the playoffs. And look, I get it. I understand that. But MacKinnon throughout this stretch was asked quite the question by Adrian Dater, who has covered the Avalanche for a long time out in Colorado, about kind of what the mindset should be for the Avalanche as they move forward here. Here's what Adrian Dater's question sounded like to Avalanche superstar Nathan MacKinnon last night.
Nate, I know you're a gamer and all this, and I'm just thinking maybe out loud as far as in your shoes right now. It's like, all right, we've done all the thinking we can do, we've done all the game planning we can do. Maybe we'll just go in next year and just not think anymore and just win this thing when we don't think so much. Am I on the right path at all with this? Like maybe you just guys think a little too much.
No.
Last one here for Nathan. Mark Spector, Sportsnet.
I think.
What was that?
First of all, there's a lot to unpack there. It sounded like actual crickets.
Yes, which is so fitting. The Zoom connection had crickets.
So that's not like you added in crickets because it was.
That is the Zoom connection.
And then MacKinnon's like, what? And then immediately the moderator is like, and we'll go to our next question.
We'll go to our next question. Let's bring in Mark Spector to ask the next question. Joe Rule.
Mark Spector. Love that guy. Dude. So I don't know Adrian Dater very well. I actually, when I met Adrian Dater was when the Avs won Game 5 here.
Yeah.
Because he's like, hey, man, I've been there before where I thought I wasn't going to be traveling back to another city, and now I am. Sorry about that, dude, or something like that. I was like, hey, good to meet you. I enjoy following Adrian Dater and his coverage, and that question was freaking weird as hell. What do you do? I mean,
well, the best part is am I on the right path here? And MacKinnon's face is like, look, dude, I don't know.
What path are you on?
I have no idea. What's going on here? Look,
you're going way into the woods on shrooms. Like, what are you doing?
We've not quite all been there, but we've been in the place where, you're on either, Zoom makes it, I think, sometimes a little bit more awkward because you're not actually like sitting there in person with people and they can't, sometimes you're talking to people. You got Mario in the background howling over here with Ryan Porth. But Zoom, I think, sometimes makes it more awkward where you can't like hear and see the face of the other person to try to like
turn the camera
see
around.
what's going on.
Yeah. I'm with you right now. We got to turn the camera around.
Oh, I know.
The camera around.
We've all gotten stuck in questions before, but I've never seen anything. Like, that could have been the worst question I've ever heard.
So,
like, is somebody greasing a wheel over there? What's happening?
And the thing is, like, when he got to the end of whatever he was talking about, so the question is, do you guys think too much? The question is, right?
Like what?
So the question is, like, are you guys overthinking things?
Yeah, which is not that bad of a question.
Take the very end, and you're fine.
Am I on the right path at all with this? Like, maybe you just guys think a little too much.
There you go.
No.
McKinnon, what did McKinnon? He just made weird sounds there. I don't even know. Meanwhile, this is going to be all day. So, like, Sarah Sivian, I'm seeing this on Twitter. She's talking about how she's never been so off in her cup predictions. So, Allison L. Do you know who Allison L is? She's she does a podcast with. She's like, maybe just bleep it, go in next year and don't think that much. It's going to be all day.
Yeah.
It's going to be all day on this.
It was great.
It's going to be more than all day.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a long time. Poor, just losing it over there.
Am I on the right path at all with this? Like, maybe you just guys think a little too much.
Am I on the right path at all?
You are.
Last one here for Nathan. Mark Spector, Sportsnet.
He couldn't even find his words at the end. What was happening with McKinnon there? Like, he was trying to process what Dater just said.
He was like, what? But, yeah, like, what would have been fine? But he was just like, you're on a path and you're seeing, like, purple elephants.
Last one here for Nathan. Mark Spector, Sportsnet.
Just move right on.
1970s path. Oh, man.
Grooving out to some Eric Burden, Spill the Wine. I don't know. Yeah, that's.
Was that the worst post-game press conference or question you've ever heard? I've heard some doozies before. Like, Martell, our buddy Martell, one time, he asked Mike Fisher in an elimination game if the game was a must-win. The Predators were down 3-1 in the series, and I was sitting there next to Martell in the locker room like, what the hell did you just say? Did you just ask him if this was a must-win game in an elimination game? I mean, that was pretty bad. There have been some doozies out there, but
how did Fisher answer?
He just kind of paused for a second. He was like, I think his answer was, yes.
I would say so.
I would say it's a must-win game. So, look.
Well, Chris.
I love Martell, but there have been some doozies for some questions before.
Well,
this last night was up there.
Yeah, that was something else, man. I mean, I can't say it's the worst.
What if Martell ended it with this?
Am I on the right path at all with this? Like,
is this a must-win game? Am I on the right path?
The peyote path to your heart. Yeah. Hey, look, I've asked some doozies. I tell you.
I have too.
But like again, Katie Rexrode mercilessly rips sports reporters for our questions. Like, just the rambling, and that's kind of what it is. Like, so anyway, I'm going to talk about this, and then you did this, and you did that, and then, so talk about that, Like, just ask a quick question,
Yeah.
Am I on the right path at all with this? Like, maybe you just guys think a little too much.
Frank on the text line says, are we sure that wasn't Jeff Spicoli asking the question last night?
You learning about Cuba? Having some food?
Oh, what a time. That was, I think, my favorite moment of the playoffs so far. It's unfortunate the Avalanche are out now.
Adrian Dater, yeah. The season may be over, but Adrian Dater's season is today in full swing.
Yes, it is. When we come back, We'll get back into Julio Jones and the Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, plus some other observations from the field yesterday on OTAs for the Titans heading into minicamp. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the Wholesale Link Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com, here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Am I on the right path at all with this? Like maybe you just guys think a little too much?
No.
Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Going to have weekend winners coming up at 9:30, where it's basically going to turn into a Joe Rexrode gloating session at 9:30. 6-0 last week in weekend winners for Joe Rexrode, so looking forward to that coming up.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but now that you mention it.
I'm sure you weren't going to bring it up.
I'm just saying. I don't know. Anybody out there?
Pretty impressive run for you in weekend winners.
I don't know. If you want an odds maker.
Taking thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Jason in Clarksville texting in. After hearing that question from Dater last segment, I think Adrian might need to start looking for a new job. Well, that's the benefit of working for yourself. Works for yourself. So he's not going to get fired.
Yeah, covering the
Avalanche.
Covering that series, Preds, Avs, and what was that, 3 years ago, right? First round series?
Yeah.
Was around him quite a bit, and I don't remember ever hearing a question from him that made me even raise my eyebrows.
No.
So just one of those moments. I think he's trying to – that's one of those things where you're trying to get in someone's head maybe, and it's like you're kind of thinking out loud.
He said he was thinking out loud.
Yeah. It's better to just think those thoughts internally and then speak different words.
Yeah.
Don't say all the words that are in your head. That's certainly something that I live by.
It's probably good news for our show.
It probably is. Although sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, that is true.
Skiatika.
Where's that?
Yeah.
So we talked all day about Julio Jones on the field yesterday for the Titans. What were some other things that stood out to you that you're able to talk about OTAs for the Titans when watching Julio Palooza yesterday on the field, or Julio Hoopla?
Yeah. Well, I thought Reynolds also looked good. I think I said earlier on the show, when they had special teams periods and stuff where it's basically like some of the other positions are just throw it around or whatever. So they had Tannehill and they had Julio to his left and Josh to his right, and he's just kind of alternating, just throwing passes to him, working on that chemistry. I thought Reynolds looked good, big, fat, because he hasn't really been out there a lot. Fast. I mean, Reynolds is I thought a 2 who could have elevated to that, and that was one of the hopes for this year, that Reynolds can elevate to a 2, and then that a Des Fitzpatrick can come in right away and make an impact as a rookie. There's less pressure on him now. Maybe less opportunity. Well, not maybe. There is less opportunity.
That's for sure.
But there's also, it may end up being all right for him, to have it this way. So Reynolds, I thought, looked good. I continue to look at Racey McMath and say, my gosh, he's really interesting. He is big, really big and fast, and he's catching the ball very well. So there's another guy who stands out. A guy defensively, obviously you're drawn to new guys. Elijah Molden, just watching him out there kind of communicating and how he moves and everything like that, he's going to be an important player here for this franchise, I think, for the next few years. Be interesting to see exactly what his role is, but I've been impressed in limited viewing of him. I thought, you obviously in stuff like this, you have very limited feel for anyone in the trenches because no one's hitting anyone and no one's really blocking anyone. And, in these passing downs, certainly it's still pass pro against people rushing, but it's not the same. I did think it was interesting that Danico Autry was out there, and he looked to be in good shape and looked quick. And obviously you have a lot of switching at the quarterback, so you got to see a good share of Logan Woodside and Deshaun Kaiser. And I would reiterate what I think was pretty obvious, but Titans need Ryan Tannehill to stay healthy this year. And I don't know. I would tend to, if I had to make a bet right now on this, I know some people like TD are bullish on Kaiser. I would probably lean Kaiser too, but I think it's going to be an interesting battle.
Yeah.
They both had some good and bad yesterday. With Kaiser, just a couple plays where it's like you lock in and force it when you have a great situation on the other side of the field. Close. And there's a pretty big gap. No surprise. No big revelation. Pretty big gap between Tannehill and both those guys.
Matt on YouTube asks, how did Kevin Byard look?
Kevin Byard was out there. Looked fine. I'm trying to think. There was one play where there was a pick. Actually, Ferkser let the ball bounce out of his hands for a pick that I think Monty Rice picked. And there's another guy, by the way.
Yep.
He moves well. I mean, he looks good out there. Evans got a pick too. Byard, nothing really obviously he's out there doing a lot of directing of traffic and things like that. I don't remember any particular real bad or real good play from him. But
it is OTAs too.
It's OTAs, man. I mean, it's so I'll be honest, I'm not really looking that much at a Kevin Byard. I mean, you're looking at the whole thing and who makes play or whatever, but Byard is you'd be fine with Byard. I mean, he's got to take a step forward and all that this year. If things in front of him are better, I bet you that happens. If they aren't, I don't know that it happens. Not saying that he can't dictate some things too, but are they going to affect quarterbacks this year? It's still the number one question.
Well, going back to the receivers, I mean, we brought this up a little bit yesterday, but, I mean, you can throw Des Fitzpatrick into this mix too. The Titans are huge at wide receiver now. I mean, A.J. Brown's the smallest guy. He's 6 foot. He's the smallest guy.
Well,
Des Fitzpatrick 6'2", 208. Julio 6'3". Josh Reynolds 6'3".
And think about how much we talked last year about the Smurfy receiver.
I know.
That has changed dramatically. That's a good point. And it's almost like, I don't know if it's like planned this way, but it's like fewer tight ends, more big receivers. You got some big skill somewhere on that field to be physical with people. Yeah, like again, Racing McMath, I don't know. I think if he's as good in the kicking game as billed and as they thought he was and said he was when they drafted him, then that's a roll. But I watch him, and he's just – you think about his college career, and how are you getting on the field with those guys who are in front of you?
Yeah.
How often are you going to get reps when you have Chase and Jefferson, and other really talented guys too? He's interesting, and sometimes that happens. I was talking yesterday with Terry McCormick watching practice. You think about like Matt Castle. Dude couldn't get, snaps in college. He had a pretty good NFL career playing behind Matt Leinart. So sometimes guys coming from these loaded college programs, that happens. Other observation, too, obviously looking at the tight ends. No Pinckney. I just don't get it at all. I don't understand. Now, there may be a good reason here. And if that's the case, well, that's the case. But if it's just a choice to not be there right now, I think it's a big mistake.
Agreed.
There's a lot of reps to be had right now at tight end. Briley Moore didn't get a lot yesterday. He was out there, but I don't know if maybe a little bit banged up. Miller Forrestall, the Alabama guy, was out there, and I thought he looked pretty good at times. I thought he's got the size. He had a nice catch. I think it was from Tannehill. I think it may have been from Woodside on a goal line play, on a red zone play, and he, both those guys, kind of looked the part. So certainly one or both could end up being on this roster to give you depth, but it's no different for me at that position. You've got to, I think, really scour the earth for a veteran who is seasoned and has done some things in this league if you can afford it.
Well, and then, of course, the big takeaway from yesterday, Julio Jones on the field. You had a couple of very impressive videos yesterday at Titans OTAs. Julio Jones running some routes, talking to his teammates. Looked good. I mean, he looked like Julio Jones out there. That was kind of my takeaway of, I know it's just drills, it's OTAs, and it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. But you can tell that guy's still pretty explosive, even at 32 years old.
And people are still like, what's amazing about this video? What is so amazing? Well, they are amazing videos. And, yes, Julio looked good. What stands out to me, different, how sometimes different TV versus live, is length.
Yep.
He just looked taller than I kind of think of him when you watch him, play on Sundays. But yeah, the feet, the suddenness, the speed, the hands. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's a good addition to your football team.
Go to GameNashville.com to check out Nashville's best deals. Purchase a $30 Boom Boss Craft Pizza and Tap House gift card for only $15. Try their award-winning pizza, 20-plus local beers and drafts at all locations. It's the place to go to bring the family or come for pizza, beer, and sports. 4 Middle Tennessee locations in Bellevue, Murfreesboro, Spring Hill, and East Nashville, which has a huge video wall as well. Other deals happening now include buy one, get one free for Beach Bend Park and Splash Lagoon, $20 grain and berry gift cards for only $10 as well. Get yours now at thegamenashville.com. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion on Julio Jones. What should Titans fans be most excited about with Julio Jones coming into the mix? We'll get to that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Join Stars for their annual golf tournament, the Hart Golf Classic, on Monday, June 14th at Vanderbilt Legends Club, powered by Enterprise. This event is more than just a day of golf. It's a young person's future. The tournament is a scramble format with an 8 a.m. shotgun start. Breakfast and lunch will be provided, so register today and support the hope, health, and connection of our young people. The Hart Golf Classic for Stars Nashville on Monday, June 14th at Vanderbilt Legends Club. For more information, please visit starsnashville.org. That's starsnashville.org. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. We've got weekend winners coming up at 9:30. Right now discussing Julio Jones and taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Joe, as you evaluate Julio Jones, we've spent a lot of time this week talking about how Julio can benefit others, maybe who benefits the most from Julio Jones coming in. But what about Julio, the player on the field? What do we think the Titans are getting in Julio Jones at 32 years old? What do you think should excite Titans fans the most about Julio Jones, the player, at age 32 coming in for this offense?
At this point, I feel like I need to just flip it around. What should excite you the least about Julio Jones?
Maybe so.
What should be least exciting about Julio Jones? No, been working on a piece. I mean, let's face it. It's really a stretch for me to say I've been working on it. Basically, I threw a bunch of questions at Ted Gwynn, who's our film guy, who has coached and played, and he lives on the West Coast, but he has done a ton of study this week on Julio and on the Rams offense and on the Falcons offense with Julio and on the Titans offense. So I don't know if that's coming out today or Monday, but I've read through a lot of his analysis, and it really is when you look at the Titans last year and the bind defenses were in with Derrick Henry and with A.J. Brown and the benefits for everyone else. If you take that and you add Julio Jones to that void, not the void, but you add him to like Corey Davis's spot.
Yep.
I mean, it's a big problem. And I think Gwynn, one thing he brings up that is a great point is that, D coordinators by and large, and that Dean P said it all the time, other coordinators say it all the time, you stop the run. You have to. Now, in today's NFL, if you're too geared up and your roster is too built to stop the run, well, you're going to get dusted because that's how the league has gone. But still, the balance still is the goal for offense. Even the, Baylor or whatever air raid offense in college you want to see. The good ones all had good rushing numbers. They ran out of it. They had balance to some extent. Balance is what you're looking for, and defensively, if you let a team run the football, you're toast. You can't let teams dictate like that, keep the ball, possess the ball, and then have 3rd and 2 all day. So if that's how defensive coordinators are still going to approach the Titans, it comes down to a lot of pitch and catch that Tannehill's got to just be. And again, when you look at Titans film from last year, if you're looking at Titans film in the second half of the season, you're also seeing a team that had to do different things. So, Jonnu Smith is a loss, but you kind of can watch film from the last half of last year and see what they were without Jonnu Smith in the passing game. And there are so many different ways you can take advantage of a trio like this, and it comes down to – and then take it away from the trio. What does it mean for a Reynolds and a Ferkser and a Darrington Evans? That's another observation, by the way, I didn't get into. But Darrington Evans doing – receiver-centric work continues. Clearly, they expect him to be in space catching passes this season, and I thought that was one of the things that you could compensate for some of these losses with.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's pretty clear at this point that's going to be a part of their plan as they move forward here. A big thing we've talked about this week that some have brought up have been, all right, what are the targets going to look like for A.J. Brown? What are the targets going to look like for Julio Jones in this offense? Is there enough love to go around for everybody when you factor in Derrick Henry into that equation as well? And Julio Jones talked about that yesterday at his press conference, about the amount of targets, the culture in place here with the Titans. Here's what Julio Jones had to say.
It's just, at the end of the day, you want to create a winning culture. However you need to do it to get the job done. My whole career, I've never been a stat guy. Previous years, everybody always asking me what you thinking you're going to do, what's your prediction, things like that. I've never been a stat guy. I'm a team guy. I'm just excited to be a part of the organization, and whatever they need from me to do, I'm willing to do it and play my role and play it at a high level.
So Julio's saying there, whatever the team needs him to do, he's willing to do it, and he's ready to do it at a high level as well. Look, that's great. I think that's an exciting thing. If you're the Titans, I also think, if Julio Jones is close to what Julio Jones has been in his career, we know what Julio Jones' role is going to be, and that's going to be a pretty heavy focal point in this offense. So, I hear the conversation about the targets, and to your point, if you start losing games, I think maybe that's when it becomes more of a discussion. Right now, as we sit here today on June the 11th, looking ahead here, I don't anticipate the target discussion being much of an issue when it comes to A.J. Brown, Julio Jones in this offense.
I will say that in general, if someone says I'm not a stats guy and they've had amazing stats their whole career, it's easier to not be a stats guy when your stats are awesome. But your stats are awesome because you're also very good. And, yeah, it's if this team is winning on a given week, there's going to be a week where, Josh Reynolds has, 5 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns and has, the best stats of the receivers. I bet you that happens.
Yeah.
And he may not have more targets, but, he'll have a couple huge plays because of how teams have to defend them. And if they win the game, you think either of those guys are going to be upset about it? No. Nope. And I think the same, with Derrick Henry too. I think when Derrick Henry has been upset on the sideline at times, being pulled out of a game or something, he feels like he can help dictate winning the game. That's not.
That's a good thing.
Exactly.
That's not a problem. And I agree. You brought this up earlier in the show, and I think it's a great point. Where sometimes you'll hear or see, wide receivers being upset on the sideline. I do. Sometimes I think it is, hey, throw me the ball. I need you to throw me the ball. I think back to some of the things that T.O. did. He's a great player. There's no question he wanted his targets in a game. I also think there are sometimes you see wide receivers get upset because you're losing and they feel like they could be the difference in winning the game, and you're not giving them a chance to do it by just throwing the ball to them. I think that's a good thing. I think you want, to a certain degree, you want your receivers to be that way.
Right. If you're winning and things are going well for the team and then you're causing a distraction and complaining, then
that's not good.
Yeah, that's, get out of here, Now, if you're losing and you're like, I can beat my guy, come on, we need something else. I can help us win more. Okay, that's heat of the moment. And so if things go well for the Titans as a team, I don't think any of this stuff's going to be any kind of a talking point. I'm really looking forward to listening to TD's podcast with Teddy Bruschi, because that's a great angle on this thing, is the Randy Moss coming to New England angle.
Yep.
And if you think about just Vrabel as a player and some of the players he was around, great players, Hall of Fame level players, or players he played against, things like that, where it worked out great. It's very simple. If everybody is just worried about what the end result is and taking what the defense gives you, it's going to change week to week, series to series, then it's gonna go great. And I just Randy Moss going to New England. To me, that would be a bigger, worry about how that's going to work out than anything here.
Well, and it's interesting too. Julio Jones on the field, I'm really interested to see how this affects the vertical passing game. I still think that's an area where this offense can continue to make strides. And we talked about it earlier. Julio Jones, he can do that. He can do a lot of different things. He can basically run any route you need him to run. But it is interesting. He's caught 848 balls in his career. He's got 12,000 yards, almost 13,000 yards, 15-2 a catch. That's a massive number. He's got 60 touchdowns. A.J. Brown had 11 touchdowns last year. Julio's never had a season where he had 11 touchdowns. His high is 10 touchdowns in a season, and that was in his second year in the league back in 2012. So that part of it is kind of fascinating, how Julio really the touchdowns have probably not been where you expected that they would be from a guy as talented as him.
Yeah.
That's strange to me.
It is. That is a very peculiar stat because he does go vertical. He seems like a great red zone option.
Yeah.
Porth brought up earlier in his career, you got Tony Gonzalez there. Obviously, Devontae Freeman got a lot of TDs in the heyday when that offense was just a wrecking ball.
Well, there's no question he gets a lot of attention in the red zone. So that frees other people up as well.
You got Mohamed Sanu benefiting. You got Calvin Ridley. But, yeah, it's a little bit surprising.
Yeah. Maybe that changes.
There's your negative. There it is. Julio Jones does not score enough touchdowns. And I will actually say, as a many-time Julio Jones fantasy owner, that has disappointed.
Could have used more.
That has disappointed a few times.
When we come back, it's time for weekend winners. We've got some picks to throw your way coming up this weekend in the world of sports. We'll do that coming up next. Right now, though, got to tell you about my friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. It's Fight Night featuring the can't-miss rematch between Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vettori at UFC 263. And FanDuel is giving you 30-1 odds on either fighter to win the main event. That means you can win $150 off of a $5 bet. Just place your first bet on FanDuel Sportsbook's app using promo code ROB to get in on this incredible action. Then just sit back, watch the fists fly at Adesanya versus Vettori 2 tomorrow, Saturday, June the 12th. FanDuel, it's my go-to for all my sports bets. Always great promos. It's easy to use, safe and secure, and you get paid in as little as 24 hours. So don't forget, you can only get this offer on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. So download it today and sign up using promo code ROB so they know that we sent you. Again, that promo code is ROB. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. New users only, must wager in designated offer market. A $10 first deposit required. $150 max bonus. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
It's time to pick some winners. We hope. Robby and Rexrode have weekend winners for you now
on ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
And it is that time of the week, time for weekend winners here on Robby and Rexrode. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Lots of action this weekend in the world of sports. College baseball, NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, Major League Baseball, everything is on the table. Very quickly, though, let's get a standings update from our very own Joe Rexrode. Joe, how'd we do last week? What do the standings look like?
Really?
Yeah, I know what standings look like. It's not good.
Well, listen, I mean, I kind of joke about this stuff and everything, but, I mean, I'm kind of starting to think maybe I'm a freak, okay?
Well,
I don't know.
I don't think there's any question about that.
Right. Well, fair. Fair point. But I'm a little bit like maybe I need to really embrace this as a lifestyle.
Maybe so.
I don't know. But I went 6-0. I got everything right. I got my lock. It's just it seems like almost a lost opportunity. Like I should be living in Las Vegas right now. But I know you don't have to live in Las Vegas, but I'm just saying like should be at the absolute center of the sports betting universe. Porth Elijah, he went 3-3, got your lock.
Yeah.
So you got 4 points. Robby, same thing with you. 3-3, 4 points, solid showings. So the standings right now, I'm 61-29.
It's ridiculous.
74 points, 13-2 on my locks. Porth, you're 44-45, 52 points, 8-7 on your locks. Robby, 39-51, 46 points, 7-8 on your locks. You guys are close.
Brutal.
And
shut it.
I feel like I'm kind of messing up here, right? Like I should be like bringing in millions somehow.
We'll get to work on it.
This
weekend.
I guess so.
61-29.
That's pretty good. It's pretty impressive.
It's like the LA Dodgers in baseball.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it's not all against the spread, so that's something to keep in mind.
A lot of it is, though.
But most of it is. Like some of it's like picking who's going to win a series. We've had some money line stuff, but I mean,
it's pretty impressive.
It's kind of scaring me a little bit.
I think you're like 90% on NBA.
Oh
picks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right.
I mean, you just own the NBA.
Apparently so.
It's weird, and it's not always. It's not necessarily my entire life of existing. So I don't know, man. Feeling good.
See if you can keep it up today.
Yeah, let's see.
So today, going with the Vandy Super Regional and the Tennessee Super Regional as well, picking the winners. We'll start with the Vandy Super Regional. Vandy taking on East Carolina, beginning today in about an hour and a half. Starting against East Carolina. Joe, we start with you. Who wins the Super Regional? Got to win 2 out of 3. Who wins the Super Regional between Vandy and East Carolina?
I'll let you guys have a ruling on this. Vandy, is it weak for me to make that my lock?
No.
All right, then make it my lock.
There you go.
Guarantee. I mean, first of all, good news on that front, by the way. Right now, the weather looks like it's going to cooperate. Looks like more, often that goes that way as we get closer to game time. Looks like it's not going to be a problem, which is a big deal. So they should get it in. That means ace against ace. Should be a great matchup today. But I can't bet against Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, especially after the way they pitched last week with that NCAA tournament pressure. We knew that about Rocker, but Leiter showed me something. So give me Vandy in the lock.
Ryan Porth, Vanderbilt taking on East Carolina in the Super Regional. Who wins the Super Regional?
I wouldn't totally be surprised if East Carolina pulled an upset.
Yep.
But it's hard to bet against Kumar and Leiter. So give me Vandy.
I will take Vandy as well. I think this is going 3 games, though. I don't think they're going to win both of these with Kumar and with Jack Leiter. I think Vandy has to find a way to get it done in the 3rd game. Tennessee Super Regional taking on LSU. Ryan Porth, we begin with you. Who wins between the Vols and the Tigers in the Super Regional in Knoxville?
I don't really have a great reason for this, but I'm going with the upset. I'm going with LSU.
Going with LSU.
Sorry, baseballs.
I mean, that would be a very Tennessee thing.
It would.
Happened. Give me the Vols. And not only give me the Vols, make it my lock.
Ooh. Okay.
I got a lot of faith in Tony Vitello and company. This really goes against everything I stand for to make my beloved Vols a lock of any kind. but I've done it today here on the program. Give me the Vols. Make it my lock. They're winning. They're going to Omaha. Joe Rexrode.
See, I switched my pick away from the Vols. Not necessarily.
Because of me?
Yeah, well, a little bit. Just I don't like too much confidence here because there is like this waiting for the other foot to drop thing with Tennessee fans right now in sports. And I actually think there's reason to be worried here. LSU does still have a lot of talent.
Yep.
It's not like Tennessee. Tennessee's a great team. They don't have like the overwhelming starters, that some teams that get deep do. I think we could have some wild games. It's the whole Paul Maneri is retiring. They had an emotional win to get out of Eugene. It's going to be wild. I think it's going to go 3, but I'm going to go UT. I mean, it's just hard to bet against that team the way that they find a way so often this season to get it done.
As we know, the crowd will be nasty as well. That's been a big talking point this week, too.
Because, LSU fans are always like,
very civil.
Good show, chap. Yeah.
All right, so individual picks. We've got 4 to roll through, and we don't have a lot of time to do it. So, Porth, we begin with you, your first individual pick.
All right. I'm going to start with baseball tonight. And there is a fantastic pitching matchup in New York tonight.
Okay.
Jacob deGrom on the mound for the Mets against Blake Snell and the Padres. The over-under is 5.5. That is a very, very small number. I know deGrom's been almost unhittable this year.
Yeah.
But give me over 5.5.
Over 5.5 between the Mets and the Padres.
That's tonight, yeah? You said?
Yes, tonight. Joe Rexrode, your first individual pick.
You'll be shocked. I'm picking an NBA game.
Yes.
So, Sixers-Hawks, pretty excited just about this series in general.
That game's on 102.5 The Game tonight, by the way.
Yes.
Perfect. And it's tied at 1, going back to Atlanta. I'm going to go, and I'm going to take a point here, and I'm going to go with the Hawks. I'm going to go with the Hawks at home. I'm going to take the point. I think you're going to see a lot of really good games and a good overall series, but I like the Hawks to take that edge at home. Maybe not the series, but I like them in this one.
Give me the opposite. Give me 76ers -1 on the road against the Atlanta Hawks. I think they find a way to get it done on the road. And if they're going to win, I have confidence they win by more than 1 point, maybe 2 or 3. So give me 76ers -1. I will start with the second round of individual picks as well. I, too, will go Major League Baseball. Give me the Angels -1.5 against the Arizona Diamondbacks today. Ohtani's on the mound. He'll probably hit about 3 home runs as well. Give me the Angels -1.5 against the Diamondbacks. Ryan Porth, your second individual pick.
I am going to go to I was about to say Eastern Conference Final in hockey, but it's the Stanley Cup semifinal between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Islanders. Game 1 Sunday afternoon. Give me under 5.5 total goals in that game.
Ooh, under 5.5. Porth, a big over-under fan so far this segment.
So far.
Yes, he is.
And that's not the last one.
Joe Rexrode, your second individual pick here on Weekend Winners.
There's more basketball tonight.
There is.
Suns, Nuggets. Now, this is another one where I'm going with a game where I don't necessarily think the team's going to win the series. The Nuggets come back home. They desperately need one. They're -1.5. Give me the Nuggets. I'll give the points to start to make this a series.
Joe Rexrode, you lead us off on the third round of the individual picks.
I was not prepared for that. Let me go to yet another, but this is going to be it. I'm going to have to go elsewhere. NBA game. Jazz, Clippers. Utah is winning this series. They are going back. They're up 2-0. They're going back to L.A. The Clippers are -4 in Game 3 to make this a game. Give me the Jazz. I think it's going to be very close. I think that the Clippers might pull one out, but I don't like that line. So give me the Jazz +4 Game 3 in L.A.
Give me the Clippers -4 against the Jazz in Game 3 in L.A. I think they find a way they'll pull away at the end with some free throws. They'll get this one done. It'll be 2-1. I think Utah wins Game 4. Give me the Clippers -4.
I love that you're actually did it last week too, but it didn't work out for you. But it doesn't mean it won't work out this week.
The odds aren't great. Ryan Porth, your third individual pick.
I'm going back to Game 1 of Tampa Islanders.
Okay.
Give me Islanders total goals under 2.5.
Okay. So you think they're scoring 2 or less?
Correct.
All right. Islanders total goals under 2.5. Porth's really going outside the box in this edition of Weekend Winners.
I mean, just under on that game one, huh?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Are you allowed to do that? I guess that's fine.
All right, I'll lead us off. Final round of individual picks here. I am going back to Lightning and Islanders as well. Give me the Lightning minus 1.5 on Sunday in Game 1. I think this is going to be a good series, but I think the Lightning have their way in Game 1. Give me Tampa Bay minus the 1.5 against the Islanders on Sunday. Joe Rexrode, your final individual selection.
Well, let me just retort on that one.
You go right ahead.
I think this is going to be a close series. I already called the shot that it's going to be a 7-game series, and this is going to be a close Game 1. I think Port's probably going to get it, but I see 3-2 in my mind, so I will gladly take that 1.5 with the Islanders.
There you go. Ryan Porth, your final individual selection in Weekend Winners this week.
I still have not unveiled my lock until now.
Oh.
The Brooklyn Nets -2 at the Bucks, Game 4 Sunday afternoon. I feel like Vegas has undervalued Brooklyn in this series so far. So give me the Nets minus the 2 in Milwaukee.
Guaranteed. Making it your lock.
My lock.
I like it.
That's good. I should have looked at Sunday.
You should.
That's okay. I mean, they're gonna beat them by 12.
I mean, the Bucks had to have the Greek Freak and Middleton score like 90% of their points last night just to win by 3.
And Drew Holiday was atrocious, and then he makes the big shot at the end.
Right.
And everybody forgets about it. But
and Joey Buckets, who's as reliable, as wide open shooter as you have in the league, was 1 for 11.
Yeah,
it's
probably not going to happen.
It's not happening again.
What's it going to take for Rexrode to select like an MLB game in this competition?
Like mid-July?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a break, right? Please tell me we are.
I don't know.
I mean, I'll keep going if you want.
I mean, we got to catch
go
up
as long
somehow.
as you want to go.
We'll see what happens. Picking 6 MLB games each. See what happens on that front. That is today's edition of Weekend Winners. Good luck to you this weekend. Hope everybody does well. Our listeners out there, my advice would be probably listen to Joe in this competition so far.
I was
based
listening.
on what we've seen.
I was listening intently to his NBA picks.
Yeah, I bet so. It's gone well to this.
Jeremy
point.
Gover is he's saying he's going to listen. This is the week that it just
totally
falls apart
bombs.
completely.
0-6.
Guaranteed. Yep, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
When we come back, we will look ahead to Super Regionals coming up this weekend, in some cases in about an hour and 15 minutes for Vanderbilt against East Carolina. Can Vanderbilt and Tennessee pull it off this weekend and get to Omaha? We'll talk about it next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 News Code Red meteorologist Dan Guthrie. Scattered showers and thunderstorms will pick back up again for us throughout the afternoon and evening hours. And then Saturday and Sunday, hot and humid with highs back in the 90s.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Friday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. We've got some tickets to give away to the Happy Hiller 2021 USA Cornhole Championship at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday, June 19th. It's a nationally broadcasted tournament, the first hosted by Bridgestone Arena. You can escape the summer heat and enjoy cold beer from the exclusive Lexus Lounge. Great food and good times watching the best cornhole players in the country. General admission tickets on sale for just $10. Go to bridgestonearena.com for tickets and more details. We'll give you a pair of tickets. Be caller 1 or 2 at 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025 on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Callers 1 and 2 will win a pair of tickets to check out the Happy Hiller 2021 USA Cornhole Championship at Bridgestone Arena coming up on June 19th. Joe, the Super Regional getting underway today between Vanderbilt and East Carolina. The Vols taking on LSU this weekend as well. What do you think? How much pressure kind of rests solely on Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter with Vanderbilt heading into this matchup? We had Tim Corbin on earlier this week, and as always, I mean, he had great perspective on how to handle pressure and how to handle big moments like this from your players, and I'm sure he's preached that 100 times to his players at this point, and they've responded very well up until this point. How much pressure rests on Rocker and Leiter coming into this matchup? And as you look at the pitching matchup specifically against East Carolina, it's interesting because they've got some studs as well. Maybe not Rocker and Leiter level studs, but they've got studs as well that could come in. And as Corbin said, some major league pitchers on the other side. This is going to be a heck of a pitching matchup coming up in this Super Regional between Vanderbilt and East Carolina.
Yeah, in fact, now that you're just saying this, I'm like, I've been meaning this way. Like, where is Gavin Williams, the East Carolina ace, who's up there for all the awards? So looks like maybe second round pick.
Yeah.
Is looking like this. So, yeah, that's pretty good. You know, it may not be quite Rocker Leiter level of of prominence in terms of pro prospect, but second round pick, you know, if that's exactly where it goes, apparently that's where he's mocked. That tells you something. And of course, yeah, Corbin came on here and talked him up quite a bit. His size is, you know, keeping that velocity up in the high 90s well into games and things like that. So this today could be quite a showdown. And I was wondering earlier when the rain was looking more threatening. I mean, obviously you have too long of a delay, and at some point you got to make a decision. If your starter's gone like 2-3 innings or whatever it is, you know, how long can you let him sit there and then still bring him back out there? So hopefully we get to see both those guys with no disruption.
What do you think the crowd's going to look like today? The weather's been rough this morning. It's cleared up some now and has been dry out there for the last few hours. What do we think the crowd looks like with the 11 a.m. start time today between Vandy and East Carolina?
Well, they sold out, and it was pretty fast. So that's a good sign for that. Now, I would still imagine today late arriving, maybe a little less of what we'll see tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'd also say we'll see a much more comfortable crowd today than tomorrow when it's going to be 90 and sunny, apparently.
Suck it up. It'll be all right.
It'll be fine. I mean, that's what you expect. I mean, we're in June. It's been really very cool June. So actually nice cloud cover and cooler temps today. If you don't get the rain, it'll be good. But I think I think that's a good sign. I mean, people can. Corbin's been writing notes for people. They'll get out there. He did. He put out after we had him on. He did put out kind of like a form letter.
Yeah,
on Twitter too, along with the
I credited you for
one.
that. I think that was your doing that he did that for.
I just felt like, man, you might be busy this week, so just come up with just fill in a name kind of thing. So, people can get out there. You get out there on a Friday, right? Take a half day. Should be good.
What do you think of this series coming up for the Vols this weekend with LSU coming into town? Look, we know, I mean, when you start talking about the upper echelon of college baseball programs, LSU's at the top of the list. They're awesome. They've been awesome. They are perennially a program that finds themselves in the mix. What do you think of this matchup for Tennessee in the Super Regional against LSU? How difficult is this going to be for the Vols to advance to Omaha?
Well,
It's not going to be easy. I think some people might say, yeah, but Oregon is actually a better team on paper than LSU. If I'm Tennessee, send me Oregon.
Yep.
Send them over from the West Coast, and it's just baseball. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to this. Now, obviously, it's better than, after all that stuff, having to go to LSU and play.
I'm enjoying the trash talk between the two sides.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. And look, I'm with Tony Vitello. He's like, you got good character stuff, academics, you're doing all the stuff you're supposed to do. If a kid hits a home run and wants to celebrate it, great. I mean, I think there's been a lot of talk about all the baseball stuff and unwritten rules. Hey, you know what? It is a little bit of taunting, and so you may be coming back up against that pitcher, so there's always that stuff. But I have the grand slam to beat Wright State, for example. Some people got mad about that. Get out of here.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime moment.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, the bat flip could have conked someone in the head. He was around. It
was an impressive bat flip.
Yeah, But I mean, Tony Vitello's running around in the outfield. That was great. I mean, that was awesome. So I reject that out of hand. I do think that LSU, between Paul Mainieri retiring and how that went, it was a sweep, but it was a close series. There's going to be a lot of talk, a lot of emotion, probably a lot of runs too this weekend. I expect it to be wild. And
just watch out in right field, Lindsey Nelson Stadium.
Yes.
A lot of balls hit over that wall.
Oh, yes. They fly out fast. So that's going to be fun.
Robert on YouTube, my concern with Rocker is he's hitting batters every game. I'm not that worried about Kumar Rocker this weekend.
Yeah, I mean,
just based on his track record in this tournament, I mean, it's hard to be any better than he's been.
I mean, he hit a batter. He had 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. 2 hits, dominant. I mean, yeah, here and there he'll hit a batter. If you hit 2, 3 in a row, then you got a problem. But now he looked.
What's his ERA in the NCAA tournament? He's 0.57,
5-0 with a 0.77
there you go.
And a no hitter in an elimination game. So, yeah,
that'll work.
Pretty good guy to be able to throw today.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I've got Vandy winning this weekend. I've got Tennessee winning this weekend. And think about that. Think about 2 teams here locally that could be in the College World Series in Omaha. Could be awesome.
It would be wild. And maybe there are more years to come with that. If Tennessee's going to do what it says with baseball, I think Vanderbilt's here to stay until further notice. So maybe this will at some point become a thing we expect. But the first time, if that happens, I think it would be the most college baseball talk in this state maybe ever.
That's going to do it for us today here on Robby and Rexrode. Darren, Donick, and Chase is coming up next. This is ESPN 102.5 The Game.